Hello, good evening. My name is Richard. This is Over and Over and Over Again. It's the Arsenal review, and it's not really a great day, to be honest, is it? After yesterday's performance from Arsenal, we're going to look at that, of course, look at where things have maybe gone wrong over the last few weeks in the title race. We've also got a game at the weekend to look forward to, and a last away game at Nottingham Forest, which is always a nice place to go. So we'll look at that as well. Plus, of course, any comments and questions that you've got, please drop them in the comments as well, and we'll get through all of that coming up the other side of this. So we have got with us, of course, regulars to the show. We've got Melvin, of course, and Neil. Melvin, how are you doing today? You okay?
Yeah, fine, thanks. Fine, considering it, and being considered, I'm all right, thank you.
Considering exactly, that seems to be the case. Neil, as well, good to see you. You've changed your little banner this week, I can see.
First time for the season, I think. What a shame. What a shame. But I'm all right. I knew that if I came on the pub with you guys would cheer me up and make me laugh. So I had to come on.
That's what we're hoping to do after what's gone on in the last 24 hours or so. And also joining us as well, we've got a very special guest. It's, of course, Tom from It's an Arsenal Thing. How you doing, Tom? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Yeah, good. We can hear you.
How is everyone?
Well, you know, bearing up under the pressure of life and everything else. But we as Neil said, we're going to get through this together. It's going to be a group hug and we're going to get through it all. And by the time we finish the show, we'll all be feeling much better with life and we'll be looking forward to the weekend, won't we? That's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what it's all about. So I guess really in the circumstances, there's only one place we can really start, isn't there? And that is what happened or what didn't happen, more to the point, yesterday. I mean, it's been probably on the cards for a few weeks anyway. The title was always out of our hands in the last few weeks. And they kind of had us all maybe believing after the Chelsea game, particularly the performance at Newcastle, that maybe we were going to keep going right and take it right down to the last game of the season. But where that came from yesterday, honestly, I do not know. That was worse than the performances at the end of last season against Tottenham and Newcastle. It was just, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just out of nowhere, completely unexpected. And yes, that there may well be some reasons behind it as well. The Man City result before we played must have put a downer in the players' minds. It must have done, knowing that Man City were that close then to winning the title. It had to have put some doubt in their mind, and it must have put them on a little bit of a downer. Yes, they should have been up for the game anyway. We still should have won the game regardless. But it was an absolutely abject performance from start to finish, wasn't it? I mean, you know, Brighton took a while to score the goals, but they fully deserved a victory. And, you know, people say 3-0, they got 2 late goals, flattered them. Over the course of the game, it probably didn't really flatter them. They were a much better team than us on the day, and they fully deserved the victory. And you have to take your hat off to them as well. Congratulations to Brighton. They may well get in Europe next season. What a story that would be. But that's slightly not our concern. Our concern was more what we produced yesterday or what we didn't produce, really. I mean, Melvin, how can you sort of explain that performance? Because it's literally from this season as a whole. Yes, we've had some poor performances, but that was just out of nowhere, really, wasn't it? After the Newcastle game as well.
It's like someone just pricked the balloon and it went slowly, the air was coming out. There was no energy. And it showed up in the first few minutes because their centre halves looked like they were midfield generals. They had so much time on the ball. We didn't press them. Jesus was the only one trying to press them. He was trying to press 2 or 3 of their defenders, which was a joke. Odegaard, who's normally so good at pressing, was 10 yards, 15 yards off pressing one of the other defenders. So it made it very difficult for us. And I'll tell you something, in the first 5 minutes, they missed a couple of balls, Brighton, even though we weren't pressing particularly well. And with a bit of luck, the ball would have come to us and we might have even scored. But I disagree with what you said. I don't think first half that Brighton looked that good. I'm sorry. They didn't look like they were. They had one chance they had, which guy missed an open goal. I haven't said that. It was cross. I think
Ramsdale made a good save as well, didn't he, earlier as well? Push one over the bar.
Yes, but I would have expected him to save that with all due respect. I'm saying they didn't. It didn't look like, I didn't think sitting there, think on the football. My brain was telling me this is Arsenal performance is not good enough. But on football, I thought there were 2 sides that weren't actually playing to the top of their level. Second half, they murdered us because once they got that goal, their confidence went sky high, and ours, they were only at about 10%, went to 2%. So it was slightly different. They were playing the ball around, they were playing around us. It's like they had 11 passes in the team, you know, in second half. And really, that was totally different. And also, we didn't change anything. Again, why wait so late? I mean, you knew exactly what was happening. Once after 5 or 10 minutes, you saw we weren't going anything. We weren't pressing high. We weren't changing anything. And they were just sitting back. And as I say, their centre half must have touched the ball more than any other players. And they were just fighting. They were messing around with us, really. And it was so frustrating. So, yeah, it's one of those performances. We seem to lose any energy. I mean, we are very, very good when we press high, got the energy, and any mistake the other team makes, if you make happen, we're on them. We're on them. It was never going to happen. And the bad decisions in the first half, the Odegaard situation, where he was 12 yards out and could have shot. Yeah. He suddenly decided, God only knows why, not to shoot. Absolutely, I can't understand that. He's been on form with his left foot recently. Take a shot. I don't think, I might be wrong, I don't think we had a shot at their keeper for 90 minutes. They had to actually make a proper save. Not ones that he just bent down and caught it and got it. I don't think we put him under any. Yes, some went past the post. Nelson had one second after a fantastic strike. But it didn't hit the target. As good as it was, another one that didn't hit the target. We didn't have any shots on target that actually worried their goalkeeper. So it was so frustrating. The only good thing about the game, there was no extra time.
Yeah, 90 minutes was enough, Melvin. Jesus, we didn't want any more. I mean, probably 80 minutes was enough when we look back on the game, perhaps, really. But yeah, I mean, we didn't trouble their goalkeeper enough. Absolutely not. He had quite an easy game. He not even their first choice goalkeeper, because their first choice goalkeeper was missing, and they threw Jason Steele in, who's not really played much this season, and we didn't really test him, which was a bit of a shock, wasn't it? But anyway, that was just. I mean, Neil, I know you've been so positive all season, and we've loved the fact that you've been so positive all season. But I mean, yesterday, is there any positives that you can find? Because I can't really think of any, really. If anyone can find something, it'll be Neil, I'm sure.
The only positive that I can give you is I got to see Melbourne at half time, but that was about it.
Well, that's a positive anyway, so that's good.
No, it was hugely disappointing. Yes, I think that the two draws and the loss earlier when we 3 draws and the loss, wasn't it? We had that little run. I think that really was the nail in the coffin. But like you said, Rich, the turnaround against Chelsea, which I expected, to be fair, because Chelsea are just so woeful. If we couldn't have beaten them, I mean, God, really, they don't deserve to be champions.
No, but that first half, though, Neil, against Chelsea, we played really well. Yeah, Chelsea were terrible, but we played really well, didn't we? We did.
Absolutely, we did. And then the Newcastle game was that was fantastic. What a performance against Newcastle. It's one of the best performances of the season, I felt.
Yeah.
So then you kind of like, you feel like you're being teased. It's like, yeah, we're kind of out, but no, we're going to give you a little bit of glimmer of hope. No, we're actually going to tease you a little bit. And then they come out and do that. And it's, hang on a second. There's no real further injuries to any of the key players. You've just come off an amazing win, an away win where everyone expected us not to do so well. And then what's that? No, okay, you can argue that Brighton are a very good unit. They're full of dynamic players. A few of them we should try and get hold of, honestly. That's why, in a way, I wouldn't mind them getting into the Champions League, but my part of me doesn't want them to, because then they'll probably won't want to get rid of those players, or they'll put the price up another 30 million on each of them. But, players like Mitoa and that Kaside, I can never pronounce his name, the midfield player, and a couple of others, they're absolutely brilliant. I mean, Mitoma had White on toast completely. Yeah, White was just not the player that we've known him to be. Ramsdale throughout the game was just pinging high balls into the park. I've not seen that for a long time. What happened to our playing from the back and creating something and constructing something? Yes, we had some shots, quite rightly. I don't think hardly any of them were on target, unless I've Forgotten a few. You mentioned the Nels one, but Saka also had one, didn't he?
Yeah.
And Trossard hit the bar. To be fair, just skimmed it. That was a good move. That was one of the few. There were a few fleeting good moves from us, but on the whole, I thought we looked completely bereft, tired, fatigued, and I actually believe the City result had a massive impact because I'll tell you what it looked like to me. It looked like to me, even before kickoff, to be fair, the players just came out looking like they've already put the white flags up. I really felt that. I've not seen more lethargic performance for us. Their first goal, was it their first goal? I think it was. I felt the defence were all just static. They just stood there.
Yeah, they were. Statues.
Yeah, I mean, it looked from where I was sitting, it looked like it was all in slow motion because our players were doing nothing, didn't react at all, didn't move, and I'm like, what have they just done there? What's that?
Yeah,
and that was it. So yeah, while it was 0-0 at half time and we might have had a chance, and you never know with football. After that, they played like we have known the good unit that they are to play, and it looked like I was watching the home team with Brighton. It looked like I was watching the team that was actually still in the chance for the title with Brighton. Everything that they were doing, we should have been doing, and we just capitulated. And it's disappointing to, note the similarity to the end of this season. And you've mentioned it, Rich. It's fair play to you. To the end of last season, I think we've just run out of legs. I think our squad is just that little bit too thin, and maybe mentally they're not ready, haven't got enough experience with the younger players out there to be able to mount a challenge right from the beginning to the start. And even if that means you don't win it, at least you keep fighting till the very end. And I think it's just a component of many things that led to that yesterday. But it was awful to watch, really horrible.
It was horrible to watch. Yeah, I think that's pretty well summed up, actually. We've got a few comments in already. Terry says, good evening, Richard, Magic. And boy, do I need some one-on-one time with Neil and Tom this evening. Yeah, I think we all do. Anne's in the chat as well says, good evening, or maybe not. Well, yeah, we're surviving. We're surviving. That's all we can do. Mark says, our lads were mentally shot. They did look mentally shot, I agree. Maybe Neil's right, even before the game, perhaps. Obviously, Neil's put a comment in there to Terry. We got Michael from Arsenal above all. He says, evening all. Don't forget to check out that channel as well. Some great stuff on there. Michael's gone to his actual account now. He's switched accounts, so that's good. He says, greetings again to the panel and those in the chat. He's still hungover. I can imagine. Mark says, I got wasted after yesterday's game. Had to. Yeah, so you had all them Guinnesses in, did you, Mark, in the end? I think you had 8 Guinnesses lined up or something. I don't know if you actually got through them all, but anyway, I can understand if you did. Michael says, Rich, do you think we paid Brighton too much respect with the way we allowed them to have so much possession? We went after City and got done. Basically, I think Arteta got both wrong. I don't know if it was respect that we paid to Brighton. I mean, we did sit off them. As Melvin said, we didn't close down as we normally do. We were very passive, wasn't we? And against a team like Brighton, that's not a great way to play, is it? Because they've got the players who can exploit that, and they did. Was it a respect? I don't know. Why would we show Brighton respect when we're miles ahead of them in the league? Points tally. They got beaten 5-1 at home against Everton earlier in the week. I don't know. Why would we have shown them that much respect? I mean, I'm not saying we should disrespect our opponents, but you have to look at it and think, we're at home to Brighton. We should go, yes, they've got a good record at Emirates, but we should go there and think, we can beat this team. We should beat this team. And that's how we should go out with that attitude, not show anybody too much respect at the Emirates, surely. I mean, if that's, I'm not sure if that's what it was. Maybe that was a factor. I don't know. But yeah, it certainly wasn't a great performance. Let's try and be honest. Loki's in the chat. How are you doing, my friend? Hope you're well. Hope you've you recovered from yesterday. I mean, Tom, obviously, like Neil, you've been really positive all through the season, and rightly so, because the results have been
serves
good,
us right.
Well, I wouldn't say that at all, but obviously yesterday it kind of, all came together, didn't it? Really, all the kind of negative things about our season, the few negatives that there's been, all kind of came together in one go, didn't they? In one game, and it was just a sort of performance that has been, to be fair, not the sort. It's been out of sync with everything else that's gone before it, or most other things that's gone before it, hasn't it? That performance. It wasn't like we've been building up towards a performance like that. Maybe last season, the games at the end, we perhaps were building towards that. I didn't feel that this time. So where did that come from yesterday, Tom? Where do you think that performance actually came from? Was it the City result before? Do you think?
Yeah, a lot's been said about that. I'm not sure it was anything to do with the City result. I just think it's there's a lot of factors. We're running on empty. I think we've reached our level, and we couldn't get past that. We couldn't get over the hump. The City result must have been a kick in the teeth, and you can't tell me that the players weren't paying attention to it, because they were. But this. Yeah. Actually, the results and the performances and the position in the league, it's all masked over the fact that we have got massive issues in terms of we still need quality reinforcements. We haven't got enough to see us into that final stretch. I mean, you cannot, at that running point in the season, start drawing with Southampton, giving away 2-goal leads. You just can't do it, not if you're going to get over the line. And we've done everything wrong. Everything was brilliant, sort of early on, middle, get to that tail end, and we couldn't get through the gate. And it's so disappointing. And I'm probably like everybody else. I mean, I used to think that I was getting better with age and I could take a defeat, but it's the manner of the defeat. It's the way we lost. It's the way we didn't show up. And it's Arteta must be scratching his head thinking the same as us. Where did that come from? Because there was no real telltale signs. We came off the back of a massive result against Newcastle away, and we should have been home and away against Brighton. We should have actually, and I agree with what you guys said about basically it sounding like Brighton were the home crowd, because the Emirates just dropped off. It's almost, in the morning I woke up and I felt there was that sense of trouble coming. The storm was coming. And I heard someone online today saying that when they were coming up towards the ground after the Everton result, there was that atmosphere of it was all going to go wrong. I don't know, maybe the players picked up on something from the crowd, who knows, but very disappointed to get that close and yet be so far.
I mean, you mentioned a Newcastle result last week, and actually we wouldn't have maybe been as surprised if we'd produced a performance like this against Newcastle away from home because of what had happened last year. And I think we would have maybe thought, okay, fair enough, that's a tough game away from home. And I think that we would have maybe covered it up a little bit. The fact it was at home to Brighton has left us wide open to all the criticism that's come their way today. And I think rightly so. I mean, that performance was unacceptable. Whatever the position in the league, whatever, we're Arsenal at home to Brighton, and we should not collapse like that. We just shouldn't do that. Whatever the position in the league, whether we're top of the league, whether we're bottom of the league, or whether we're mid-table with nothing to play for, we're Arsenal, and the players should show a lot more character and they should show a lot more fight for the shirt, if nothing else, regardless of what happened to Man City. And to play the way they did and just to put that performance like that was just, for me, it's unacceptable at any time. But particularly when, we had to win the game as a minimum requirement for anything that, to stay on the tails of Man City. We had to win the game and make them have to win the league, not gift it to them like that. Make them have to win it. And that, to me, it was unacceptable. Yeah, go on, Melvin.
Do you know what struck me about the game as well? Going back the last 4 or 5 years, if you like, we always said we haven't got a captain. Then, going back 4 months, we've got 12 captains. Yesterday, there was not one captain on that pitch. There was no one punching the fist and going, come on, boys, we can do this, or whatever. And it may not have made any difference, but it could have got the crowd going, could have got some of the players going, you know what, he's right, let's go for this. No one picked up and challenged them on the pitch. And that was very bad. And all this about, I don't want anyone to tell me that we've got another 7 or 8, like they used like a couple of months ago, telling we've got 7 or 8 captains on the pitch. We haven't. Not one person stepped up. I don't mean Odegaard necessarily. He should have done it because he's got the captain's armband. With that comes responsibility. But what about the others? The Jack. I'm not knocking them for football. I'm just saying about the captains. The Jackers of this world, the Gabriels of this world,
Jorginho.
But
exactly.
That's a really good point.
Where were they yesterday?
Yeah,
it was like it was their doubles playing yesterday, and it wasn't the real people.
Yeah. It's like they don't, normally someone like Odegaard or all the ones that you just mentioned there, Melvin. They normally kind of do that and get the crowd going as well. I didn't see that once yesterday.
None at all.
It was weird.
Absolutely.
It was really, honestly, Melvin's got spot on there. It was like watching a different team. It was like watching clones that didn't know anything about what we've done so far this season. It was so alien to watch that game. that was really bizarre. It's a good point. Really bizarre.
It was almost like, no, I think you're right in what you said before, actually, and that maybe ties into that, before the game, it was almost like they didn't want to be there. They didn't want to be playing. They didn't want to be out there on the pitch. And that's just not, I don't understand that attitude, regardless of what Man City did, regardless of the fact that we probably wasn't going to win the league anyway. It makes no difference. We're Arsenal, we have to do better. But yeah, you're right. There was no leaders, which actually, that kind of brought me on to the next point I was going to make, Melvin, actually, which was regarding our captain, Martin Ødegaard, who, has got his strengths as a player. There's no doubt about that. Is he a leader on the pitch in the way that you would expect a captain to be? Maybe not. My question is, how many other teams' captains get substituted as often as he does? And why do we think that is? You make your manager makes you captain, and your captain stays on the pitch unless he's injured, right? Every other team, they never take their captain off, hardly ever, in a game tactically. And yet Mikel Arteta takes Martin Ødegaard off on a regular basis. He took him off very early yesterday. I mean, rightly so, because he did absolutely nothing in that game. But why is, as captain, why is he getting taken off so regularly when you don't see that happening? I mean, Melvin, why do you think that is, particularly with Martin Ødegaard? Xhaka stays on the pitch for 90 minutes every single game. The captain gets taken off near enough every single game. It's just bizarre. I don't understand that.
I don't understand it. Honestly, don't. I mean, I just don't understand it. It really doesn't make sense. We're not saying the captain's always the best player. Of course we're not.
No,
but he's captain for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And we need that player to do other things apart from just play the game. He's got to get the boys together. He's got to lead by example and all that stuff. And to take your captain off, I mean, it's not as if that. It's a confidence thing as well. If you're captain, you don't expect to be taken off, and it's really. As I say, perhaps it's the modern football or something.
I think it's quite disrespectful, to be honest. I think it's quite disrespectful. If you're the captain, yes. I mean, I'm old school, like Tony Adams, Patrick Vieira. You try and get those guys off the field. They'll want to go down with the ship. It's not going to happen.
Yes.
So the modern thing now is I think the captaincy has been diluted massively. It's not the job it was. And you haven't got the standard of players with the appetite for that role. Genuine leaders, there's very few and far between. But I would be very upset if I was hooked at any stage of the game and I was captain in any team under any circumstances. I didn't even care if I was 5-0 behind. You want to get on there and get busy. But I think it's very disrespectful, and I think it kind of dilutes the role even further.
Yeah. No, it does. I mean, I can't understand, because as a manager of the team, you pick your captain to be your representative of the players on the pitch when the game's going on as well, don't you? And if you're going to take your captain off early on in the game on a regular basis, wasn't just yesterday. Martin Ødegaard's gone off. I don't know how many times he's been substituted this season. Be a lot. And, surely the manager should pick a captain who he's not intending to. Yeah, occasionally you have to substitute any player because things aren't working, and that's fair enough. But you look at players that hardly ever get substituted in that team. There's a few. Ben White hardly ever gets substituted. Xhaka hardly ever gets substituted. Jesus, when he was injured, obviously coming back, he got substituted, but he very rarely gets substituted much. And there's players that hardly ever. Gabriel never gets taken off. He's never been taken off yet, has he, Gabriel? So there's players there that Mikel Arteta will not remove from the pitch. Why hasn't he made one of them captain? Why has he made a player captain that he regularly takes off? I mean, Neil, I know, we all love Martin Ødegaard for what he brings to the team. Of course we do. But this is an issue about the captain. He's the captain of this team. And he's not being allowed to be captain almost because the manager's almost not showing that faith in him on the pitch, it's weird. When he picked him, I don't get it.
It's really strange. I mean, it's like for example, the Tierney issue. The Tierney issue is. It's like he doesn't trust him. Well, that's how it comes across. I don't know what. I'm not privy. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But that also spilled onto the pitch yesterday. It's like the players didn't even want to pass to him. I mean, it's what's going on there. You spread the play. Use Tierney. Tierney's a damn good player, right? He's not the creative engineer that maybe Zinchenko is when things are going well. But he is a traditional left back, and that's what we need sometimes. And so I think it's very similar. And I think I think Tom hit the nail on the head when he mentioned that's who I grew up with, the likes of Adams, and then obviously moving on to Vieira and stuff. You never in a million years would have whoever the respective manager was at the time, George Graham, Arsene Wenger, Bruce Rioch, would never have touched them to bring them off. You know, what a great point to say. Even if they were 5-0 down, they would have still been on there. And for me, the captain's role is almost mimicking what the manager has done or the coach has
Yeah.
done, but doing it on the pitch. Because
Yeah.
as a player, say if I was playing football and things weren't going well, it doesn't matter what the situation was, but especially if things weren't going well, I'd be looking at the captain straight away saying, right, what do you want us to
Of
do?
course you would.
What
Exactly.
can
That's
we
what you
do?
do.
And you
Yeah.
then expect the captain to respond, to be barking orders, to be vocal, to be verbal. And I'm not saying Odegaard hasn't got those traits. He has. He's been great in some instances, even as I said earlier, you know, geeing up the crowd and getting everyone going. And can you imagine Adams being taken off at 60 minutes? Can you imagine Vieira being taken off 60 minutes? The only time they would get taken off is if they got sent off or if Adams was banned.
Can I come in there?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, Neil. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
First of all, I don't think Odegaard does anything as a captain that he should do. He lacks in certain, as a footballer, great. I've not seen him get into the referee's ears like other captains do to push things our way. I think he misses out a lot of that. I'm sorry to say, and I'm really disappointed with him in that. But as a footballer, great. We need to do that. Also, going back, talk about taking captains on. I go on a bit old. Obviously, I go back to before your times. And there's one captain, I reckon, if the manager would have taken him off, he would have punched the manager. That's Frank McClintock.
Frank McClintock,
Yeah.
Seriously, had he had he wouldn't have dared to call him off. Come on, Frank, 60 minutes.
Wouldn't dare it.
We're going to put a young kid on. I don't think any manager, well, Bertie Mee most certainly, wouldn't have had the guts because he knew what would have happened. He'd have just chinned him because you would never have done it. It's like, what are you doing? Because he was the captain. He was, in my opinion, the best Arsenal captain I've ever seen. Honestly, I know Adams was great and blah, 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 but what I saw Frank McClintock, he was unbelievable. He literally grabbed people round the throats and went, "Come on, we can still do this." And that is what, a bit old-fashioned, I know, but that is what was needed at the time. And we need a little bit of that, as I say, we need a little bit of that now.
There's a lovely little story about Frank McClintock. I'll just quickly bore everyone with it. Frank McClintock gets into Charlie George's ear, and they were playing Malcolm Allison's side, and he said, "You see that guy? He doesn't rate you. He thinks you're a tosser," type of thing. So Charlie George puffed his chest out and said, "Right, okay." And he played superbly, played a great game, scored a goal and all that sort of thing. And then he walked off and he went to get in Malcolm Allison's ear, and McClintock had to pull him back and say, "You never said that, really. I was just geeing you up."
Yeah, I heard that.
But that's what you want, isn't it? That's exactly what you want. I mean,
that's a captain doing his job, isn't it?
Exactly. I know these days you can't do the grabbing my throats and stuff, but you can do it in a proverbial manner. You can still do it. And that's what you need. And I think we need that kind of inspiration. And it's just sad that, right, modern day football is modern day football, and there's some stuff that we like, some stuff that we don't agree with, especially the old school fans that amongst us. But end of the day, I don't think the captain's role should ever change. It might be fine tuned here and there, but ultimately, he's the person you look to when things are not going well and you need inspiration from someone. And if you haven't got it on the pitch, then it kind of leaves everyone else like, well, we look at each other, shrugging their shoulders, don't know what to do really here. So yeah, strange one, really strange.
The other thing, Neil, is apart from him being captain, is that he's 9 times out of 10 the most creative influence on the pitch.
Yeah.
And in certain games, he's taking him off, and then you're scratching your head thinking, well, where are we going to get anything from now?
Yeah.
And that's as baffling as taking your own captain off. It's just weird. And during this game, you guys will probably sort of fill in the blanks, but taking Jorginho and Xhaka off at the same time, what does that say? That's folding up your tent, isn't it? That's waving the white flag.
100%.
Yeah, exactly that. That's exactly what it was. That was exactly how it came across as well. Brighton, when we made that substitute, I think it was still only 1-0, wasn't it? It wasn't like we were 3-0 down and the game was gone. It was only 1-0. We were still in the game, and the Brighton bench must have looked at that decision and thought, "Wow, this is they don't want this game. They don't want to win this game." And obviously from that point it got even worse, didn't it? Because Brighton went on and got a few more goals and could have had a few more. So yeah, that was another strange decision substitution wise this season. I mean, we could have a whole 4-hour show on the strange substitutions that's happened this season, I think, couldn't we, really, and discuss them all, and we'd be here all night. And that was the latest example. But yeah, I mean, it is a concern for me that he's taken his captain off so regularly through the season. It's happened so many times. And yesterday, like, I think it was Reece Nelson came on. So Reece Nelson was given the armband by Odegaard, and he didn't even know who to give it to. He's thinking, what do I do with this? And in the end, they gave it to Thomas Partey, who'd only just come on as well. And it's like, oh my God, Thomas Partey's been on the bench for the last 4 games, and you're making him captain. It's just mad. Anyway, it's ridiculous. But maybe, yeah, it's a modern football, maybe. The managers come out now and say, oh yeah, we've got 6 captains in the changing room, whatever it is. It's just rubbish, isn't it? There's only
last thing about that, Rich, last thing about that substitution that is even more curious is Thomas Partey. His performances over the last few games have been absolutely awful, dire, average at best. And they brought him on for 2 players that have been consistent. Jorginho as well, when he was in the Newcastle game. Xhaka has been great all season. He took him off and put an out-of-form player in. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand that part of it at all. And it was just like a series of errors. It was such a horrible... You just want to erase it, don't you? Want to get rid of it.
Yeah, you do want to get rid of it, yeah, but unfortunately we can't, because it actually did happen, and unfortunately that's where it is. And Mark C tried to be positive. He says, all right, everyone, our highest finish since 2015, 2016. Yep, it is our highest finish since then. That's very true. We can't argue with that. Loki says it was like the Everton game flat. Yeah, the Everton away game, obviously, when that was probably our next worst performance of the season. I think we probably agree with. Terry says, to be honest, there is no reason anyone shouldn't give 100% effort in every game, win, lose or draw. But that yesterday was embarrassing and disgraceful. Yeah, I agree. You should always give 100% if nothing else. Win or lose. Most of the time, I'm not overly necessarily bothered by the result. Yeah, the result matters, but if the players have given everything, you can't have any complaints. You've got to say fair enough. They gave everything and they left it all out, and then we lost. Fair enough. You can accept that. But when they don't give everything, you can clearly see they didn't and they gave up. That's just, for Arsenal, that's not acceptable. That is just not acceptable. I don't know what the consequences need to be or what they're going to be, but something needs to happen, because we can't produce a performance like that again ever. I just don't think it's right. And says we're overachieved and Man City are rise of the machines. Well, they have one machine in particular. We've all lived a fairy tale, but the reality is very good. I mean, I wanted to come on to a little bit about the fact that this whole season and our whole title race, if you like, was based on an extremely good first 19 games where we got 50 points. No Arsenal team in history has ever got 50 points or ever won that many games out of the first 19, right? And that was incredible. And I think even the ones who most doubted us the most, including myself, and I've doubted this team and I doubted this manager, at that point in the season, you're thinking 50 points at the halfway point. Well, you're on track for 100 points, like Man City got a few years ago, right? And we was never going to maintain that in the second half of the season to that same level. Of course we wasn't. But in the second half of the season, with 2 games left, so 17 games, we've only got 31 points. Over a season, that's like a top 6 finish, which is where we've been for the last 4 seasons. Now, is the second half of the season more where we are? And the first half was just everything went our way. We just managed to, I don't know. And then suddenly we found our level again in the second half of the season. We've put together a series of results that we have very similar to the last 2 or 3 seasons. Very similar set of results in terms of number of points won in the number of games. And I'm getting to the point now where I can't decide. And I think next season we're going to know a bit more. Was the first half of the season a freak, or is that really where this team are? Is the second half of the season more where this team are actually at in reality? And did they get all our expectations up because of those first 19 games, which were incredible, most of them? I don't know. What do you think about that, Melvin? Do you think the second half of the season is more realistic? Everyone's gone about William Saliba being missing, right? And yes, he's been a big miss, although that wasn't until much later. But surely we should be able to cope with one player being out of the team, however good they
are. I'm a bit worried. See, trouble is, so I had you ask me this question a couple of weeks ago, even though we hadn't done very well in the second half. But I go, no, I think we're all right. It's not. I've changed now after yesterday. I think that it could be of where we really are, because the first 19 games, who do we play away from home?
Yeah, I know, I agree. Yeah, they were slightly.
We should have won it, but we didn't. We made mistakes. We got a goal that was disallowed, fair enough, but defensively we made mistakes that let him back into the game. That's number one. We didn't play Liverpool away, did we? We didn't play Man City away. We
didn't play Man City at all, home or away.
Yeah, but I'm talking about. True. Yeah, fair comment. I mean, the hard games we had. I know everyone says that everyone's a hard game, but it ain't. It's levels of how hard it is. But we played quite very good teams at home, and we were fortunate, I might say, to beat Liverpool. We looked like we played some great football against Liverpool, and then we got a penalty which was a bit lucky, to say the least.
It was soft. It was.
And they cut us open once or twice. I mean, one of the goals they got, I don't know where our two defenders were. That's with Saliba, and I love Saliba. But I think Firmino scored. I mean, it was like horrible. And also, we have got away with it. I mean, what was the one with Brentford? Was it Brentford? No. What was the one that Nelson scored in the last second? Left foot. Bournemouth. Sorry. Bournemouth. That is not Championship performance. And it was Aston Villa again. The thing is, at home we've given away so many goals. To win the league, we might have done it. I'm not saying we never do it, but we were very close. But we gave away too many goals. Well, not only did we give away too many goals this season, to be really critical, we've really given teams a lot of opportunities to score against us. Look at the Leeds game; we should have been coasting. Yeah. Look at the Crystal Palace game when I think we went. Was it 3-0 up? They scored a goal and they should have made it 3-2. I'm saying they would have made it 3-0, but hold on a minute, it's a Crystal Palace you're talking about now. So many games we've had to go, oh my God, got it yet? And then it's all forgotten about because the 3 points are in the bag and we're all singing and dancing. So I think our defence is not as good as we believe it to be. At home, your defence should be really better than away. And just one point, I mentioned this before, not crossing on here, but I was talking to a friend before the game, and we're chatting away and we're talking about how good Ben White's been. I said, he's very good. I said, but he's not a right back. And he goes, yeah, but I said, he's been playing very well at right back, but he's not a right back. And I said, against Newcastle, I thought we got found out a little bit because down that left side, they got, they look quite dangerous, Newcastle. And actually, it was found out yesterday with the Brighton player, murdered him second half.
He did, yeah.
And he's as good as he is. I would, if I had the choice, you might come to this question in a second, but I'm sorry if I've preempted this. If we get any players, the Brighton geezer or Rice, was it
Casado?
Guy's name, Casado or Rice? I would go for Casado. I think
I would definitely, yeah. 100%.
But instead of going for Rice, which we probably couldn't afford if we want to buy players in other positions, I would play Ben White in that position, holding midfielder. He's got all the attributes. Really strong. He's fast. He can play a little bit of football in the midfield, and he can just stop teams from coming.
He played there before as well. He played there was it Leeds? He played for on loan, didn't he? Or one of the teams.
I'd like to see him do. I say on that basis, all we got to do then is you can't trust Tommy to keep fit. Not his fault, just that's the way it is. But I'd have another right back, and I think that'd save us spending a fortune for Rice. Right, paying and I would do that because I think Ben White would do a great job there and settle something for us.
I mean, that's he has played there before, as we said, so potentially he could do a job there. But I don't know if that's the answer. I mean, Neil, going back to the point though, do you think which is this real Arsenal? Is it the first half of the season Arsenal, or is it the second half? Yeah, there's more pressure in the second half of the season, but is it the sort of 35-point half of the season, or is it the 50-point half of the season, or is it a little bit of both? Maybe where we are. Was the first half maybe overachieving and the second half slightly under, or how have you seen it? Obviously, with hindsight now, looking back on the season because it's nearly finished.
I just see it as that's how it panned out. I mean, it's difficult for me to compare the two because at the end of the day, winning, the run that we had with 19 games is a lot of games. You can't say that, we've been lucky to it's a good run. I mean, the league is always the best measure to see how good a footballing team is because it's so over such a long period. And it's about consistency and to gain 50 points in 19 games, I don't think it's no fluke or nothing lucky. We played really good football. That was the lovely thing about it, and that's what I think got everyone going because it wasn't just winning games here and there by oh, we got a lucky goal there. We were actually playing great football throughout the game. Exactly what you were talking about earlier, Rich. If we played like that and lost 3-0 to Brighton, we wouldn't be so upset today, because we'd think, well, actually, we did everything we could, but just a few things didn't go our way, and that's the way it is, and that is football. But and that's taking nothing away from Brighton, by the way. I thought they played well in the second half. They deserved to win. It's as simple as that. But I know you guys say you can't just blame Saliba. I think the Saliba, when we lost Saliba, that was, we'd been on a really good run, hadn't we, as well? The 7 wins on the trot or whatever it was, and then we lost. The thing is, we lost Saliba and Tomiyasu. People just keep forgetting we also lost Tomiyasu. So it wasn't just about losing Saliba. We lost another fairly decent player, because if Tomiyasu was still around, in theory, Ben White could have filled in that position which Saliba had left empty, rather than having someone like Holding come in. And because there's all this talk about maybe we should have played Kiwior earlier, which with hindsight, maybe that would have been the answer, and maybe not played Holding for so long. But I think losing Saliba also had an impact on Partey's performance as well. I think with Partey knowing that he's got the good relationship with Saliba and Gabriel behind him, probably made him feel a bit more comfortable to play more his game. Then when Saliba's gone and we got Holding in place, who doesn't do what Saliba does. He does what he can to the best of his ability, and that's it. But he's no Saliba, and I think that might have impacted a little bit on Partey. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but I think you're right, Rich. We can't let one player's absence imbalance a whole team's effort for the whole season, because that's ridiculous. Don't deserve to be champions if that's how bad it is or how thin it is. What this resonates for me, what this highlights for me, is how important it is to get those people in the summer. We need reinforcements now. We're in the chat. We've got to remember, it's not the same season next year. We're in the Champions League as well. And I'm not being disrespectful to the Europa League Cup. We're also, the Champions League is another level above and beyond. And we need to get the players in to fill the gaps. And we're not just talking about, I don't care about what they cost. When I say buy big, I don't mean buy big as in, well, we've got to spend 100 million on each player. I mean, we need to get quality in. And I don't just mean get a whole young group of dynamic youngsters. We do need a couple of those maybe in the midfield, because our midfield is sadly aging. But we need to get some dynamic youngsters, but we also need those players of experience as well that can fill in the holes when we're missing key injuries, or not even when injured, but we can rotate a little bit more like what Man City do. Man City can just rotate and just flow with all 4 competitions beautifully. And that's what we've got to emulate. And that's what we've got to aim for, I think, really. So if there is a process which Arteta is trying to build to, that surely has got to be the next stage. So I hope Arteta and Edu and the Cronkies do something this summer to fill that void. But as far as the 2 halves of the season are concerned, it's just the way it's panned out. You can argue that the second part is more realistic to what it's been in recent years, but I would like to say that we do more of the first half now going forward, but we try and carry it through for the whole season, and that will enable us to challenge more, and that's what we want to aim for, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the aim. Obviously, in the season that we've had, we can't afford not to do that, really. Otherwise, we're going to drop even further behind. We can see that we're not at Man City's level. And you're right. I mean, you're saying about rotation at Man City doing. Yeah, of course, they've got the players to be able to do that a lot more easily. But Arteta doesn't strike me as a manager that likes making too many changes anyway. And even if we've got a bigger squad, it's like he brought Trossard in, and as soon as Jesus was rotated him once. He brought him in against Chelsea and he played pretty well, and then he left him out again for the next game against Newcastle. So he doesn't like. I think Mikel Arteta would be happy if he had 14 players to pick from all season. That was it, because they're the only 14 players he wants to use. He's reluctant to throw Emile Smith-Rowe into games. He did in the end yesterday because of the circumstances of the game, but he's been reluctant to use him. He's reluctant to use after players that's been on the bench. He's hardly ever brought any of them on. And I don't know if we buy 4 or 5 squad players in the summer to pad the squad out, which we need to do. How much minutes are they going to get if everybody's fit? And the problem is, Saliba missing made a big difference. I agree. It shouldn't have made as much difference as it did, because it's one player. And if you haven't got a plan for one player being injured, and you can't have a plan for that in case it happens, then to me, you haven't, you need to have a plan in place for every single player that might be injured. You got to think Jesus was out for a long period of time, right? And he was playing really well. He was contributing massively, goals he was scoring, assists and whatever, playing well for the team. He was out. The backup was Eddie Nketiah, and we all thought, oh my God, Eddie Nketiah. But Eddie Nketiah came in and scored goals. He scored as many goals as Jesus had done. And it's like that was a plan that kind of worked, but everywhere else in the team, we don't seem to have a plan, do we? He doesn't like leaving Zinchenko out of the team because Tierney comes in. And Tierney, I agree with what you said earlier, Neil. He's a much better defensive left back. Brilliant. But he can't play that Zinchenko role because he's not that player, is he? And so Arteta's going to keep playing Zinchenko there because he wants to play. And how can you find another player to replace Zinchenko like Zinchenko? You can't. Because Zinchenko's got a certain skill set that fits that style and that system perfectly. So unless we've got somebody else, what do we do if Zinchenko's injured? We saw yesterday Tierney had to play. Wasn't his fault. He didn't have a bad game particularly. The problems were on the other side of the pitch to where Tierney was. But if Tierney was playing 5, 6, 10 games in a row, trying to play that system Zinchenko plays, he's not going to be able to do it as well. And it's going to make a massive impact. And that's maybe the same with the Saliba situation. I agree. Tommy Asu could have come in at right back. Ben White maybe would have lessened that blow slightly. But, Mikel Arteta didn't want to play Ben White as centre-back anyway, because when he had the opportunity to play him centre-back, rest players earlier in the season, he didn't do it. So, he played him at centre-back last season because he didn't have anybody else. I mean, Tom, do you think that, we shouldn't really be looking at one player being missing for a key part in the season and it all falls apart, especially that when that one player's a central defender, a goal scorer, you could think fair enough. If Man City lost Haaland for 10 games at the end of the season, would they have managed to still get the results? It might have been more difficult. But a defender, you'd think, well, you should be able to cultivate a defender, shouldn't you? Shouldn't make that much difference to the team, should it? Really? Come on.
No, not really. That? I think, bad decisions were made. The performances weren't good. Individual performances weren't good. Collectively, we weren't good. Substitutions weren't very clever. Lineups were wrong. All these little minuscule details. I kind of agree with Neil. I don't think it's the position is going to change with Arsenal. The first half of the season, we were very dynamic and we ran down the end of the bottle and we ran out of juice. That's how it was. We didn't pick the fixtures that we played. We got what we got and we dealt with them accordingly. But one player doesn't make a difference, but 3 or 4 players not playing to their full potential, that makes a difference. That makes a huge difference. You had Saka worn out. You had Partey went off the boil. These things, you had Tommy Asu missing, you had Saliba missing. Now it starts mounting up. It's not all about Saliba. There's been a few games where Martinelli didn't get the supply. He wasn't getting any supply and he looked half the player. And that was when Jesus wasn't around, but then Trossard came in. So there's all these little decisions that were kind of left of centre. It's hugely frustrating to think that you can just ebb away because we've had such a superb season. It's been magnificent. The performances have been exhilarating. It's been good to be an Arsenal fan. Let's not forget that. And when we turned from last season to this, we never expected this. We never expected to be in a title race. And I'm not diluting it down. Anyone who thinks, oh, shut up, because we've just lost the title. Yeah, we have, but it wasn't necessarily ours to win, was it? Because we didn't put the performances together. We lost our way. We haven't got the bodies to fill in where it's necessary, like Man City, and that's going to be the aftertaste that's left until the summer. We've got to reproduce our best form. We've got to get more players in because the Champions League, well, you don't want to go into it with form like that we saw yesterday. We'll get bounced out about 10-0. It will be really embarrassing. That was embarrassing yesterday, but Champions League on that type of form, you don't want to do it.
No, and obviously with Champions League as well, we've seen in the past it's more games as well. I mean, this season we was out of all the cups pretty early. We went out the Europa League pretty early, so we only had the league to concentrate on, and we couldn't manage to do that. So when we might have 2 or 3 other competitions to concentrate on next season. Hopefully we will, because I don't think we can throw all our eggs into one basket next season, as we seem to have done this season a little bit with going for the Premier League as a position that we were in. I think next season we have to try to keep ourselves in the cup for as long as we can, as a backup plan, if nothing else, because you're better off winning something than winning nothing and ending the season empty-handed again. So I do think that's going to be quite important next season, because a 4th season in a row without a trophy for Arteta wouldn't be great, would it? Regardless of the improvements that we've made in the last year or so, 18 months, 4 seasons without a trophy is not really for Arsenal, and Arsenal might him years, but he had earned that with the trophies he won before. But you're not going to get a manager come and go 4 years without a trophy at a big club and still be there. It doesn't happen. It does not happen.
I'll tell you how it might work, Rich, is that might have been the best result possible yesterday in terms of Arteta's plan was kind of cemented in. He probably had a few selections that he was going to make in the transfer window in the summer, but maybe that has just made him realise that he has to dig deeper. He has to find various other players to solve some problems. Maybe he will sit back, watch that match. I hope so. It's a tough watch for all of us. But if he sits down, digests that, he will see a lot more. Sometimes when you lose, you learn more. That's a fact. You lose badly, and then you can put things right. And what he needs to do now is fine tune to get us in a shape where we can really attack Man City and not give away points and not draw against bottom of the league. That's what we need to do. Arteta needs to sit down and really analyse this over the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree that I never look on defeats as losses. If you learn from them, they're not losses at all. But we don't seem to do that. We haven't seemed to have done that for quite a number of years, actually. We seem to lose games in the same way constantly, time after time. We don't seem to make those changes to stop that from happening. We're going to lose games. Of course we are. Everybody loses games. It's how you lose a game, isn't it? We seem to lose games in the same kind of a way on a regular basis. When we lose games, it tends to be the same way. And this is not just this season or last season or the season before. It's not even just under Mikel Arteta, really. It's been going on for quite a number of years. And we don't seem to be learning from our defeats, which is something that is so important. I agree. 100% that's what we need to do. Mark C says there, we've got a marvellously talented squad, but we lack a Tony Adams, we lack a Vieira, a proper lead from the front person. Yeah, of course we do. Yeah, I mean, modern football maybe lacks that in general. Potentially, there's not too many about now, is there? Anywhere in the Premier League, let's be honest. But yeah, we've seen some great leaders at our club, and obviously Frank McClintock, as Melvin mentioned before, and we don't see that anymore, do we? Michael says, I agree, Melvin. Not a good sign when Arteta keeps catching off when a goal is needed. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not really great, is it? Terry says our whole midfield was taken off. Says it all really. The only one that came off the pitch of any dignity was Reece Nelson, and he don't want to be in next season. I must admit, I agree. I thought Reece Nelson, for the 20 minutes that he played, was our best player by a country mile. I was thinking, if I was giving player ratings yesterday, everyone would have got maybe a 2 or a 1, and Reece Nelson would have probably got a 5 or a 6 or a 7, because he at least tried, and he looked like he cared for the game. He's the only one, I thought, but yeah, he played well. Go on, Melvin.
Reece Nelson, number 1. He didn't have a good game, yes. Not Reece Nelson, he did play well when he came on, but Trossard, number 2, going back 4 or 5 weeks, those two were up for it. And we had a chance to rest Saka. And now you see what's happened when we haven't. And that's made a big difference to us. Saka has not, I'm not knocking Saka because he's been unbelievable. But Saka at the moment, Saka's 0.2 is nowhere near as good as Saka 0.1. And he needs a rest. He's played World Cups. He's played European Championships. He's played practically every game in the league and cup for us. Sometimes you can't drop players. There's no one to go in. It's a bad position if you're in that, but there's no excuse. You could have given Reece Nelson a chance. Most certainly you could have played 90 minutes with Trossard. Let's see how it goes. And I think he missed the trick there. It's not jogging backwards. I've said that before. But I think that, we had the opportunity to do it and he let it go through his fingertips. Yeah, I love watching Saka play, but you can tell he hasn't, that confidence bit has gone. It's gone. It might be a split second of speed. It might be a split second of thought, but even he miscontrols the ball sometimes now. And he makes the decisions that he would never have made before. So I'm disappointed in that. I really am. But it is what it is, and we are where we are. Can I mention a point that Terry made about Smith Rowe? It's no good. It's like when you play Sunday League, like I've done. You don't want to be brought on when you're 6-0 down, which I've been brought on a few times when I was sub. It's no good for your confidence, right? I know you don't want to get taken off if you're 6-0 down. If you're captain, you've got some fire in your belly, but you do certainly don't want to go on when you're 6-0 down. And he's only brought him on twice recently, Arteta, twice when the game was finished, over. And that does no good for confidence. Now, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. If he's upset Arteta, then Arteta shouldn't bring him on at all then. Don't bring him on with 5-10 minutes to go when the game is over. It's taking a mickey out of him, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I
and if
agree.
he does do well, and then if he does do well, what do you do then? Drop him again? No, I just don't understand that at all. That's what, and that's.
Can I come in? Yeah, I agree. Rich, we said that, didn't we? We said if he's got an issue with him, he shouldn't even be on the bench. If he's half fit mentally or physically, he shouldn't be on the bench. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, that I think I don't know what it is. What is the issue with Tierney? Is I can see the similar thing happening with, or has happened with Emil Smith-Rowe, which is that for me is gut wrenching, because I love Emil Smith-Rowe like you wouldn't believe. I've said it so many times before. When Emil Smith-Rowe and Saka both hit the scene at the same time, I always looked at Emil Smith-Rowe and thought that he would actually become the better player out of the two, as good as Saka is. And that's a huge statement, because Saka's unbelievable. And Melvin, you're right. Saka is not being Saka because of anything other than the fact he is burnt out. It's as simple as that. And you made a great point about Nelson, because I said this as well somewhere, or someone, or I don't know, and I was laughed at, that why not rest Saka? You've got Nelson there, who's, I think, a tremendous player. But what annoyed me as well, one thing that I haven't agreed with what Arteta has done, when Trossard, we had the lineup of Trossard, Martinelli and Saka, we were doing really well as that front line. Yeah, I know things weren't going great at the back because we were leaking goals. But with Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, they formed a great relationship, those three. And just because Jesus was
Martinelli and Trossard in particular played well together, didn't they? They linked up really well.
Exactly, Rich. And just because Jesus was fit, and this is no disrespect to Jesus, because I love him as well, but just because he was fit, Trossard gets put to the side. And so you can understand why he might be feeling, hang on a minute, I've done nothing wrong since I've been signed in January. I would suggest that he's probably one of our, if not best January signings ever that I've ever seen. And you just throw him onto the sidelines because Jesus is fit. Well, I'm sorry. The old adage is fact. You do not break something. You don't try and mend something which isn't broken, and it wasn't broken. So why bring in Jesus?
But you see, this has been one of my big issues with Arteta, is that he's got a set way he wants to play and set players that he believes are the best for that way of playing, and he doesn't want to change it. He'll only change it when he has to because of injuries. He didn't want to bring Trossard into the team when he did. He had to because Jesus was injured and Trossard was there and he played him and he played well, but it was always going to leave him out again because that's just the way Arteta is. And this is why you say that you've got that. Reece Nelson's got that issue. Kieran Tierney's now got that issue. Trossard seems though he's going to have that issue, and it's something that's not great management of the squad, is it? It's not great management of the players individually. Whether or not it's good for the team as a whole, you could argue it is because of the results that we've had. But individually for the players, it can't be. I mean, I agree. Saka should have. I mean, you say that. I mean, we're talking about taking Martin Ødegaard off when we need a goal, and he's one of our most creative players. You leave Saka on, and Saka's done nothing for weeks. He's never going to create a goal in the way he's been playing. And he takes Ødegaard off.
He's been giving the ball away a lot as well. He's been losing possession all over the show for how many games? 4 games?
We're not criticising Saka because he's been brilliant, as Melvin said, and we love Saka. But you can tell when a player needs a rest. And there's nothing wrong with resting a player every so often. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And that's what's needed. And he won't do it. And he takes off other players who are playing better than what Saka's been playing. And they're taking them off when we need a goal or something. So much of it's baffling. I've been baffled by Arteta pretty much since day one, if I'm totally honest. And as time goes on, he's baffling me more and more as things go on. And I can't get my head around it sometimes. Mark C says, Ødegaard's the wrong choice for captain. I kind of agree. Yes, I think he is. Loki says, Katie is a winner. Well, he's not a winner sitting on the bench, though, is he? Because that's not where he needs to be. It's funny, isn't it? Because a year or so ago, everyone was saying Kieran Tierney should be the new captain, shouldn't they? He was being pushed to be captain of the team. Now he can't even get a game, because he'd rather play a midfielder at left back. Another baffling Another baffling decision. Terry says, I think that's why Arteta doesn't pick him because he's a winner. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's a bit of a strange comment, but I kind of get where you're coming from. James in the chat doing James, he says, Odegaard is our best player when chasing the game as well. Can't believe he takes him off. Most sub-captain league. Yeah, he is the most sub-captain league, absolutely. By a mile, I would say. Not even close. He must be the most by an absolute country mile. Loki says Fabregas was our last decent captain, like him or not. I love Fabregas. Yeah, he was a fantastic captain, fantastic player. And yeah, he never got took off much, did he? Fabregas, when he was captain, I don't remember him getting subbed off very often, even if he wasn't having a great game. And that's the way it goes, isn't it? Michael says that if, and it's a big if, we get Rice, he should be given the armband straight away, but Arteta won't do that as it will upset Odegaard. No, of course he won't. He won't do anything to upset his little boy, will he, Odegaard? He gives him a cup of tea in bed every morning, tucks him in at night, doesn't he? Clearly. But no, I mean, I don't think Rice should come in and be captain straight away. I don't think anybody should be. You shouldn't sign a player and make them captain straight away. I think that's
an image I don't really want. Arteta tucking Odegaard into bed.
Can't you see that's what happens? It's clear. It's obvious to me. It's just obvious. That's what's going on. But anyway, Michael says Patrick Vieira used to launch someone in the air, pick up a yellow card just to get everyone going when things were slacking off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and get the crowd up as well. You know, how many times did he do that? And the crowd were a bit quiet. Patrick would go in and smash someone, and we'd be like everyone gets up, don't they? So it used to be the way to do it, isn't it? But anyway, Mark says subbing off your captain tells your opponent you're there for the take. Well, yeah, it certainly doesn't give out a positive message, does it? Definitely not. James says Gabriel ended up as captain as Partey wanted to give that armband away quicker than he gives the ball away. I didn't see where it went after that. I know he gave it to Partey, and Partey didn't look particularly impressed with it. It seemed to be going around the team, didn't it? Who wants it? Nobody.
The last person that had it, Rich, I think was the referee.
Well, I'm going to give it to him, actually. Wayne's in the chat. Wayne, he says, Odegaard, a captain at least by example, as was Aubameyang, both quiet guys, but do their talking on the pitch. Well, yeah, but again, Aubameyang, when he was captain, didn't get taken off in games, did he? It was only towards the end when obviously things had happened. They took him off. You don't take your captain off like that. Terry says the one positive to come from yesterday's game was Arteta did go to plan B. I know it didn't look like it because it's so close to plan A. What, by changing the whole midfield in one go? That's plan B, is it? Okay, well, fair enough. Well, maybe it is. Colonel's in chat and he says Arteta keeps making mistakes in games for me, and when we go behind, he has a knack of defensively weakening the team, and then we usually lose by more. Very annoying. It does seem to be the case sometimes, doesn't it? But anyway, James says, I think we've got a very good starting 11. Yeah, I think we all agree with that. But the squad isn't at the level. Mikel's inexperienced, tactical nous, emotions, in-game management still need work. Yeah, they do. Every single one of those things is exactly what Arteta needs to work on because he is still lacking experience, isn't he? He's still a young manager and he's only ever had one managerial job, and that's here. To me, I still say he's a coach, not a manager. And I think there's a massive difference between the two. He's learning to become a manager and he's learning on the job, but he is a coach and he's a very good coach, I'm sure. But that's what he is. He's a coach. He's not really a manager. And you can see that with these decisions. And yes, it's inexperience and he needs to learn quickly, doesn't he? But I personally think if we don't win something next season, he's going to be under pressure. Even if we come second or third. Again, I still think that there should be pressure on him, not winning a trophy. There should be.
I mean, will we come under pressure if we come second in the league next year, Richard? No way. Absolutely not. You serious? Coming second again next year to Man City, not winning it? Sorry.
We didn't say Man City were going to be first necessarily, did we? What I'm saying is if we don't win a trophy, we've got 4 trophies next season to be in again, like we've had this season and last season. If we don't win a trophy again, that'll be 4 seasons in a row without winning a trophy. Are we going to get back to the stage where we were with Wenger, where finishing top 4 is all that matters, just getting in the Champions League every year? Are we just going to accept that again? Or are we going to say, actually, no, let's try and win something? League Cup will do. Win a League Cup. George Graham won a League Cup. Look what happened after that. Win something. I don't care what it is.
I'm with you on this.
Not winning anything, you're under pressure, mate. You've got to be under pressure. We're Arsenal. We can't go 4, 5, 6 years without winning a trophy now. We did it under Arsene Wenger. We did all them years, 8 years, whatever it was, right? And he got away with it because of what he'd brought us, and I kind of accepted that. But things are different now. Arteta's won 1 FA Cup with a squad of players he was given, and we've gotten really nowhere near winning a trophy since. Not really. And I don't know, another season without winning something. I'm not saying we should sack him. What I'm saying is he should feel under pressure. He needs to feel under pressure to win something now. He's been here long enough and we spent enough money and we're going to spend a lot more money to start actually winning some trophies or at least making a big effort to win something. And I think next season's got to be the one. Go for the League Cup first if you want. Do that. That'll be fine. You're not going to win the Champions League probably. You're probably not going to win the Premier League with Man City. Let's try and win the FA Cup or the League Cup. Get a trophy on the board.
I want to win something. Of course I do, and I think we should. But you forget we've got the same owners, and they have been good. That really look at the bottom line. If we've got 60,000 people watching us at home every week, if we get enormous television rights, if we get into Europe every year, the Champions League and plus all the add-ons to that, the owners, I hope I'm wrong, aren't that bothered.
No, I agree.
They would love to win titles, of course they would, but they're not that bothered. He will get away with it. If he comes in second or third next year, he won't be under any pressure. But I don't think so because of that bottom line job.
No, you're probably right. I'm not saying he will be under pressure. What I'm saying is he should be. He should be starting to feel the pressure of winning a trophy for 4 years at Arsenal, because no other big club keeps a manager that long without winning. Chelsea get rid of one if they lose 2 games. I'm not saying that's the right approach either. I'm not saying that's the right approach, but there needs to be some sort of, if you're a big club, you've got to be there to win trophies. And if you're not winning trophies for regularly season after season, you shouldn't stay in your job. I don't really care about anything else. You shouldn't stay in your job if you're not going to be able to win trophies at Arsenal.
Something I wanted to talk to you guys about is looking up the front, looking up the top. You got Martinelli, you got Saka, you got Trossard, you got Jesus. A lot of those, well, near enough all of them, cut in from either wing. They're not recognised strikers. I think we need something else, because we got something too similar, really. All very, very good players. And I'm not having a dig at Jesus. He's been brilliant when he's been fit. But I just feel like we're missing a trick. We haven't got any plan B when it comes to a striker. They're all the same. They're all easy to cope with from the point of view of, you know, where they're going to be, what they're going to try and do. Saka out on the right, cuts in. Martinelli out on the left, cuts in. Trossard, he's probably the one that can float about a bit. Jesus does that as well, but it's all very similar. There's no big drop off and change.
But you see, you're right. Well, I agree, and I would love to see us buy an out-and-out goal scorer. You know, Pep's maybe gone against the grain this season by getting Haaland, because he never used to want a goal-scoring striker, really, did he? He's always done a similar thing to Arteta, getting the goals from the wide players cutting in, and that's almost what Arteta wants to do. But we talked before about a plan B. That would be a plan B, wouldn't it? Let's have a different way of attacking. Have an out-and-out goal scorer that we can bring in, start certain games, bring on to certain games, and that is what's called a plan B. And Arteta doesn't seem to want a plan B. So as much as we all loved him to do that, I would love us to go out and buy a 30-goal striker. We had one when Arteta turned up, and it didn't last very long, did he? So I would love him to do that. I just can't see him doing it. Honestly, can't see him. If he buys any forward play, he's bought one striker in 3.5 years, Arteta. That's Jesus, who he worked with at Man City. He's not bought another striker. Why not? Why hasn't he bought another striker? Is he going to buy another striker now? And if he does, my fear is it will be a striker. As you said, we've got all our front players are exactly the same. They're the same player. They are basically the same player, aren't they? They're not much different. They've got slightly different bits about them here and there, but they're essentially the same player. And they do the same job. And we need something different, I agree. We need it.
Rich, if he's all for emulating Pep and trying to beat him at his own game, then maybe after seeing what he's done with Haaland, it might strike a chord with him. We don't know. But, you know, this is the frightening thing. Haaland can drop off 50% of what he's achieved this season, and he'd still be banging in 25 goals, which is what every striker would. That's the frightening reality of it. Yeah, if Arteta looks at it and think, well, okay, maybe we do need to bring someone in like that, and even if they bag in 18 to 20 goals, you know, that's something. I mean, I agree. I think we all know that we need a player like that up front, 100%. But it's whether Arteta is actually going to do it. I mean, there's so many positions now that really he needs to address. It's quite frightening, because at one point we thought we were at a point, you know, we were all right. We weren't too far behind the place we wanted to be at with respect to players around the pitch. But now, over the last few games or second half of the season, it's damning, isn't it? Really, there are a lot of shortcomings in a fair number of positions, really. And I think he's got to, as I said earlier, he's got to buy big. As I said, not necessarily fee-wise, but he's got to get a lot of players in. Because otherwise we're not going to. We'll have an early exit in the Champions League. I'm telling you, it'll happen. That's the. And I don't want to have waited all these years. No fan does, to get back into the elite competition and be knocked out at the very first stage. It's going to be horrible to be in that position. So I think he's got a lot to address. And just interesting, you know, that you were talking about Arteta being a better coach, or should have been. It wasn't he a coach when he won his only trophy. He won as a coach, didn't he? He wasn't manager at that point. I think when he won the first cup.
He wasn't. Well, officially, he wasn't called a manager. He's called a manager now. Whether that makes it doesn't make him a manager because he's called a manager. That's just his job title's changed. He's still a coach. Essentially, he's mainly a coach, is what he is, and he's learning to become a manager. And in some aspects, he's learned certain things, and other things he's still short on in certain aspects of being a manager. And I think we all can see that clearly. We've all seen it. Comments in the chat have picked it up as well. It's not just these. If you look on Twitter, for example, everyone says, "Oh, if you're on Arteta out," it's not just people that have maybe not always been 100% backing Arteta, believing he's the right man. Everybody can see his shortcomings. It's not wrong to spot his shortcomings and say this is where he needs to improve. If he doesn't improve those things, what's the answer? The answer is he has to go. That's it. If he improves them and these things get better and they change, then fine. That's great. We don't want to get rid of a manager who's successful and doing well. Of course not. Nobody does. But if a manager is not adapting and not learning and not progressing enough for a big club like Arsenal, because we're not Tottenham, we're not a club like that who can just poodle along for 10 years and it's fine. We're expected to do a bit more than that because of who we are, and that should be what we're all wanting. And yes, this season we'll all accept this season because it was much better than we anticipated. We challenged for the title. We're going to finish second. Brilliant. It's following this up now and improving this season again. That's what we've got to do. It's no good going backwards. We've got to improve on this season. It's going to be tough to improve because we're going to end up with 80, maybe 85 points, potentially more. We need to improve that next season, don't we?
Rich, sorry guys, we were talking about the way the captain's role's been diluted, and you are bang on. There aren't managers anymore; they are coaches. I don't care whether you call a coach a manager, but the managers, in my book, are the people that ran the club from top to bottom. The Alex Fergusons, the Wengers, the Brian Cloughs. These are people that ran the club. There wasn't Wenger was in such a strong position that you couldn't buy different tea bags unless you put it past him first. Do you know what I mean? That was the power of a manager of a club. They don't have that power anymore. Look at the people behind Arteta. He's got people left, right, and centre doing different facets of the managerial job. So they are coaches. They are not managers as such. But that's the modern thing of the game. I don't care what they call him. How about a successful coach? If he wins something, brilliant. It doesn't really matter. But the fact is, I just wanted to point that out because it has changed drastically.
Yeah, it has changed. Yeah, you're right, and I agree. I think the only one of the top clubs now in the Premier League, certainly, that I think has got an actual manager would probably be Liverpool. I think Klopp's a manager as opposed to a coach. To me, he's more of a manager than a coach. I think out of the top team, Pep's a coach, yes. Arteta's a coach, yes. I think he is. I think maybe Conte at Tottenham was probably a manager as opposed to a coach. And I think that there's one or two, but it seems like that is the modern way. I agree. And maybe you need a little bit of both, though, don't you? You need to be a manager as well as a coach. You need to be a great coach, of course you do, but you also need some of that management stuff, some of the Alex Fergusons about you. I think you do need a little bit of that as well. And unfortunately, Arteta hasn't really got that yet, and he may well develop it. And let's hope he does, because I think that could make a difference to what goes on in the future. James says, hopefully after Saliba signs the first signing we need to make is Caicedo. Yeah, I agree. Caicedo is a great player. He would be a great signing for us. Absolutely, 100% agree. Colonel says, talk about Kyle Walker-Peters from Southampton. He's not bad, is he? We'll forget his Tottenham kind of history, but yeah, he's a good player. And Southampton, there's going to be a few Southampton players up for grabs, won't there? Because they've just got relegated and they've got one or two decent players. So Southampton could be a team to look for, one or two players. Maybe they'll be a little bit cheaper. Kyle Walker-Peters is a decent right back. Yeah, he would be good to have there as covering the squad. Yeah, I quite like that. Yeah, go on, Melvin. Do you like Kyle Walker-Peters?
Yeah, I like him. He's very good. Very good. Going forward, he is anyway. When you talk about buying players, this pre-season, I always say it's very important. But now we haven't got the excuse to say, right, we're going to buy a couple of players to fill the gaps. That's not good enough. We've got to buy players now to make an impact on the first 11. Otherwise, if you stand still, you go backwards. And it worries me that they continue, and they've been very good recently, but if they turn around and have in their mind, think, what do we got to do? Again, I just get okay right back now. Don't let's push the boat out here. We're okay. The first 11's okay. We'll have a couple of people that will fill in. No, we've got to actually push the first 11 and get a couple of players to improve the first 11 straight into that team and make us a better team. Because I still think that the first 11, as good as we've got, even if they're all fit and not, are they very, very good, but they could be better. There's always room for improvement. And all the great, we're not a great team, but all the great teams aspire to improve every season, however much. I mean, Man City will improve their squad next year.
Yeah,
They don't have to. They got 22 great players. They shouldn't have to, but they will. Liverpool will, because they had a bad season. Chelsea, don't know what they're going to do. But what I'm saying is, all the top teams will, even if they're winning things, will improve. And we haven't won anything this season. We've come close. And if we don't push on, we will slide down very quickly. It's you know what I mean? It's like we lose a grip of the wall and it just go our fingertips just scrape the wall. And that's what I'm worried about. If we go into this season, this pre-season, and buy 2 or 3 quality players, I go, you know what, this is brilliant. Even if we don't win it, we've shown like we've actually turned the corner here. We believe we're a top club and we believe we're a top team and we're going to get somewhere and we believe we can win the title. If they look for stopgaps, like buying a 31-year-old, I'm not knocking the one we got from Chelsea because that was for a reason. That was in the January or whatever it's called, sale. That's fair enough, January window. But we mustn't look for these, get any 30-year-olds and all that, or people that are not quite there. Hopefully they'll be there. No, we haven't got to buy for the future now. Of course, our team's very young, a lot of them. We've got to buy for now, get 3 quality people. And then I think, you know what, all right, we never won it last season, but we're going to give it another go now. It's black or white for me. It's black or white. We either do it or we don't. There's nothing in between.
No, I agree 100%. This is a big summer for Arsenal, really big summer, I think. Loki makes a great point. He said, I know about the betting, but Ivan Toney for me. Ivan Toney would be a brilliant player for Arsenal. He really would. I think he would be a perfect kind of centre forward because he's got everything that you want in a centre forward, hasn't he? He can score goals. He can take set pieces. He works hard. He can hold the ball up. He can bring others into play. He's good in the air. He's physical, everything. I would love Ivan Toney, but I'm not sure he's an Arteta type player. I'm not sure he's an Arteta type centre forward. I just don't think he is. But yeah, I would say he's got 20 goals this season for Brentford. Imagine what he could do with a team that creates the chances we do. Imagine how many goals he could score. You know, he wouldn't be far off Haaland, would he? You know what I mean? If he played for Arsenal. But we probably won't get him. Terry says, Arteta does like to play ESO and we lose it 2 or 3-0. Must be a big boost. Yeah, we mentioned that before. Yeah, I was crazy. Bongo says, for me, last summer was the beginning of a rebuild. I trust the club to make the right moves next. Well, yeah, potentially you're right. And that you may well be true. Bongo Guna says, VVD for Liverpool. Virgil van Dijk.
That means about one player not making a difference, he means, with the solution.
Oh, right, yeah. I know that's what you mean. Yeah, no, he did. He made a big difference. Although I think it was him and the goalkeeper they signed at sort of similar time.
No, I think when they're injured, Richard. I think he means when he got
injured. When he was injured and he
no,
he was injured, yeah, and maybe he didn't.
They went off a cliff.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, actually. Yeah, maybe he did, yeah. But then, you know, that's almost, you know, VVD is like one of the best, well, at that time was one of the best defenders in the world. William Slee was playing his first season in the Premier League, so there's a slight difference in how much you should miss a player, I suppose. But yeah, Liverpool did miss him, there's no doubt. Terry says, I thought we knocked Highbury down to compete with Bayern's and Real Madrid's. In my opinion, we've gone backwards. Well, we've certainly gone backwards since where we were in 2006. There's no doubt about that. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And building a stadium was one of them. The money was tied up and other clubs have come in and taken over. Man City have had money, Chelsea with their money. So yeah, we have kind of gone backwards to where we were. But you know, maybe this is the time for us to get back again, move back forward. That's what we want to see. Loki says, I'm not better. We've done better than I expected. Yeah, I think we've done better than all of us expected. Ultimately, we've got the goal that we all expected us to get, which was top 4. We've done it in a slightly more convincing way than we anticipated we probably would. So that's a positive. But now it's building on this, isn't it? It's building and moving forward because other teams are going to improve next year as well. So we need to. Mark C says it's the hope that kills you. Yeah, it definitely is the hope that kills you. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. So it may be in a way now. I feel a little bit more relaxed actually because now it's over. We can think, well, we finished second. We can accept that and look forward to hopefully better things. Terry says, does anyone know what part of the process we're at and how many more seasons we have to achieve our goal? Well, didn't he say we was at part 3 or something the other week? I can't remember what it was now. Was it part 3, part 2? I don't know which part we're at. It's a bit like a Netflix series, isn't it? You lose track of what series you're on. We're somewhere, aren't we? Bongo Guna says step 3 from 5. Oh, we're step 3, are we? So step 3, right? Okay, well, there you go. Only another 2 years to go. Then it's not too much to wait, is it? Michael says, as James says, we have a great 11, but squad isn't there. City made 6 changes v Leeds and left KDB, Stones, and Grealish on the bench against Everton. That's equivalent to us benching Odegaard, Saka, and Xhaka. Yeah, exactly, it is. And Haaland's been on the bench a few times as well, hasn't he? He's not started every single game. He's been on the bench. He's been left out of some games, and he's still got 50-odd goals. So there you go. Bongo Guna says, probably this step was to get back into Champions League. Yeah, that's what this step was. Well, I think that was a step last season and we missed it. But so we've had to do it this year to make up for that, which we have. So that's good. Arsenal for Life says there, guy on button left looks like Eddie Howe. Oh, Eddie Howe. You think so? Okay, fair enough. There you go. Some of you look like Eddie Howe. Have you ever heard that before?
No, never.
Right?
Sort of Sean Bean, Gordon Ramsay. That's what I normally get.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I can see a little bit of Gordon Ramsay as well. Yeah, but no, Eddie Howe's a good one. Yeah, he's a handsome chap, isn't he? Step 4, compete for or win the title. Step 5, win it. No, I don't think. I think step 4 is to maybe win the cup, win the League Cup. Step 4. Step 5 is to get to the semi-final of the Champions League or a quarter-final and not get embarrassed. And then step 6 will be God knows. We'll have to wait and see.
Step 6 is when you wake up.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. James says, second the last 8 games of last season, the last 8 games of this season, he's not been at the level. 100% agree. Melvin should have took him out to save him. Yeah, he's cooked. He is. Yeah, I think we all know that. And I say it's funny how other players get taken off when they're more effective in a game or have been than what Saka's been, and that's unfortunately the way it is. Mark C says Saka gets kicked from pillar to post every game he does. Whoever is our captain should be in the referee's ear every game, yelling about how often Saka gets up. Yeah, and that should it should be Xhaka. Xhaka should have been our captain, but anyway, he's not going to be. Terry says, spot on magic about Saka, but I can see why he ain't signed his contract yet. It may be better to sell him before he becomes another Jack Wilshere. Well, sign a contract first and then sell him because we'll get more money for him. So, we'll get 200 million from him if he signs a new contract. If he's not got long of his contract, he'll go cheap, won't he? So we need to get him to sign a contract either way. Michael says they'll announce a Saka deal for some good PR and a kit launch to wear next week. Exactly. No, we said that yesterday when we were doing the game yesterday. We said, when's the next? They're about to release a kit on Monday to try and make everyone feel better about losing 3-0 to Brighton because that's what we've done all season, isn't it? But that's good. Terry says, yeah, Neil, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Bongo Guna says, I know we're all gutted, but there was a huge amount of positives. Give us some of them. Well, we tried to give you some of them, Bongo Guna. We've tried to come with some positives. There's not been too many from yesterday's game. I mean, over the season, there's been positives, of course. Michael says, I think Jesus can easily be cover for Saka. He can play there easily as he spends most of his time outside the box anyway. He does, yeah. And importantly, the levels won't drop. That will allow us to get a proper centre forward if that's what Arteta wants. I mean, Reece Nelson can play that role. Trossard can play that role. We've got players who can play that role and he doesn't use them. So, but yeah, we need a proper centre forward. I agree. Jesus is a good second striker, isn't he? He's a very good second striker and that's his position, not as your main striker because that's not his role. But does Arteta want a main striker? We'll have to see. And Michael says, singing North London forever before bedtime. Yeah, that's the positive. Yeah, that's what Martin Odegaard does before Mikel Arteta tucks him in. They sing North London together, don't they?
Makes him a jam sandwich and a cup of cocoa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a little bedtime routine. Yeah,
these images.
Bedtime, Martin. Here we go. Get your sandwich and your glass of milk, and we're going to sing North London forever. Oh, thank you, Mikel. Thank you.
Guys, I just wanted to ask you, there's always been a big thing on the TV, on the coverage about how good this City side is, and no doubt they are very good, but they're up against not very much on occasion. I just wondered if everyone thought it was blown out of perspective. I mean, they have done really well, and they are a quality side, but when we're talking about quality side, what would they have done against people like the Invincibles? I mean, it's hard to speculate, but they're talking like they've reinvented the wheel, and they haven't. They play some brilliant football, but Ajax have played brilliant football. Brazil have been doing it for years. And to be honest, Pep, his sides are playing exactly the style that the best Arsenal teams did under Wenger. So you know, I think that we just put the brakes on. I mean, they're a very good side, but they're not the best side in the Premier League, you know, that it's ever seen.
And let's bear in mind as well the fact that they've broken over 100 fair play financial laws as well to get that squad put together. So let's kind of remember that they may well be a very good side, and they are a very good side, but if they've been put together by illegal means, then really that makes it irrelevant anyway. But I agree, they're not the best side ever. Pep hasn't invented football at all. In fact, I don't like Pep style. I never have liked Pep style of football. I've got to be honest. Never really liked it.
To be honest, they've been very lucky on occasion as well, Rich. I mean, that game against Fulham, they snuck it. They kind of they rode their luck.
But then big teams that win trophies do tend to get lucky, or it appears to get lucky. The better you are, the luckier you get. That may be kind of the way it goes sometimes. But I mean, I've never really liked Pep style of football. And Sam Allardyce summed it up for me the other day, actually. I know he's made some mad quotes lately, Sam Allardyce. I'm loving what he's saying. He's brilliant. But he said something about you know, this kind of playing it out from the back and sideways passing, keeping possession. And he was trying to sort of argue that isn't really what fans in the stadium want to see. They want to be excited, get up on their feet, and you get excited by getting the ball into the box, and you do. That's what gets you excited. And I've always found Pep style a little bit boring, and that's why I've never really warmed to Arteta, because it's a very similar style that I personally don't enjoy. If we win games, I don't care. And it's like when George Graham was grinding out 1-0 wins, playing boring football with 55 defenders, I didn't care it was that because we won. But it wasn't the style of football I would choose. Arsene Wenger came along and completely revolutionised it, and I'm thinking to myself, actually, that's the football I want to watch. And now Arsene Wenger's gone, I want to watch that football again, and I can't because we're not playing that football anymore. And it's different, and I don't enjoy it as much. But that's just me. That's my personal preference. If we win games, it doesn't matter.
We will never live long enough, Rich, to see that side again. The Pires, Ljungberg, Bergkamp.
No, we won't. I'm grateful that we saw it once for one period.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all we can ever hope for, you know, and we did. It doesn't matter anyway, but it's what we all like, isn't it? I don't personally like that modern style, you know, playing it out from the back. I just don't like it. One, because as Sam Allardyce said, you probably concede more goals than you score by doing it. So what's the point? Get the ball, get the goalie to boot the ball up the other end of the pitch, get a big centre forward to hold it up or flick it on, and get a corner, get a set piece, try and score a goal, get the ball in the box. That's what I want to see, because that's how you score goals. You know, all this lovely football is great, isn't it? I remember, was it 2 or 3 years ago, Man City played Man United, and they scored this goal, and Match of the Day highlighted it, and Sky did, where I think they put together 55 passes or something before they scored, right? And 48 of them were just across their own box, right? For 5 minutes. Boring. Knocking it backwards like this, right? And eventually they got the ball up the wing to somebody, Mahrez, I think it was. He played a little 1-2, got to the byline, pulled it back, and someone scored from 2 yards, right? And they were going on about that's the greatest goal ever scored. I think, no, it isn't. It's the most boring bit of football I've ever seen in my entire life. And that's what we're playing.
I knew.
Well, it's like when Sky
about that. Come on.
It's like when Sky were going on about the best finish to a league, and it was Aguero.
They were losing at home to QPR. It's like,
it was football before the Premiership, and the best finish to any season is 89, without
100%.
The best ever finish.
That will be the greatest one-off game ever played in football anywhere in the world ever. And it's never going to be beaten. It's never going to be anywhere. Going to get nowhere near it. And everyone just needs to accept that fact. It doesn't matter it was Arsenal involved and Arsenal won. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a Tottenham fan. Just accept the fact that's the greatest game of football ever played. Ever. And it always will be. And so it doesn't matter what happens in the future. Nothing's going to get close to it. It's impossible. It can't. How can that be beaten? How can it even be equalled? It's like the Invincibles. You cannot match the Invincibles. Man City got 100 points. I don't care they lost a game or 2 games that season. We didn't lose any. No one's ever done that in modern football in the top division in England. And no one will probably ever do it again. They won't. If this Man City team lose games every season, there's no way anyone else is not going to lose a game. So, you know, some things can never be matched and never be beaten. You just need to
this is the modern desire, isn't it? To find, to sort of say that this is better than that was. But 9 times out of 10, you won't beat the football that I've seen in the past. It's just replicated. You're just borrowing. Wenger's teams at the top of their powers were the best teams I've ever seen, apart from Brazil and Ajax on occasion as well. You know, style, flair. I mean, he revolutionised the game over in this country, and Arsenal suddenly became their own kind of brand because of that football.
If you talk about team goals, Tom, the one that always that I recall so vividly is the Jack Wilshere against Norwich.
Yeah.
I
And the
still can't
Rosicky
get
one. The
every.
Rosicky one against Sunderland as well.
Yeah, that
Very
was good
similar.
as well. Yeah.
Yes,
But you watch them back and you kind of think, how the hell do they do that? It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Every single time, and obviously with the Jack Wilshere one, it had the brilliant Santi Cazorla, one of the. He was such a great player. What a lovely player he was. But you know, I agree. I think if the Man City team now was playing the Alex Ferguson team when they were on top, and the Wenger team when they were on top, and we had those kind of teams, I don't think they'll be running away with it as well as they have been. No way. No way.
Also, when you go back to the '89 game, that situation, if it never happened and you went to the pictures and the cinema and you saw that as someone like made up story and said, you go, what a lot of crap. That could never happen.
That will never happen.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
What is all that about? That's
Well,
like
that's why
Warner Roses.
That's where Fever Pitch. That's why Fever Pitch was so popular, wasn't it? Because it was based on reality, but also it's so unbelievable that it's almost not reality, even though it was reality. You see what I mean?
I still think he's going to miss when I watch it now. Even when I watch it now, I think he's going to miss. He's going to miss even now.
I mean, to be honest, every time I've got the '89, you know, the '89 documentary that they made a couple of years back. I've got the DVD of that, and every time I watch it, every time it's coming to that goal when Michael Thomas scores and Lukic has got the ball, every time I think he's going to miss. Even now, I know he doesn't miss. I know he scores. It was brilliant. Every time I think he's going to miss. He's going to get tackled. Just shoot. I'm shouting at him to shoot, and I know he's going to score. It's an incredible moment.
It's
it will never be beaten.
Best favourite moment ever for me as an Arsenal fan ever.
Of course it is. Any football fan, apart from maybe Liverpool, I can understand Liverpool fans not enjoying it. That's fair enough. Any other football fan should agree that that's the greatest single moment. Michael Thomas's goal is the single greatest ever moment in football history. It is. We were lucky; it was our club that was on the right end of it, and we were fortunate to have experienced that. But regardless of that, it is the single greatest moment ever in football, and it needs to be acknowledged as that fact. Forget Aguero scoring against QPR.
No way.
QPR, you've just said it. QPR.
Who had 10 men as well. So you know what I mean? It's just
It's like Jamie Redknapp, isn't it? Coming out with that ridiculous, Haaland's the first ever superstar Prem player. What are you talking about? What nonsense? What planet do you live on, idiot?
Didn't Cristiano Ronaldo play in the Premier League?
He did.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's just like it's so disrespectful to those great players that have come and gone. The Premier, it's so disrespectful, that comment. Absolutely ridiculous.
Haaland is a fantastic player. I mean, he's the modern kind of. If you put everything you needed into a cement mixer and give it a stir to create the perfect striker, he is the modern striker, isn't he? But is he better than Thierry Henry? I don't think so.
No.
Thierry Henry was a cut above. We could all, up and down the pubs, you just argue these points. But Thierry Henry, for me, is the best striker, complete striker I've ever seen.
Complete footballer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, complete football. Yeah. I mean, there's been so many superstars in the Premier League that Jamie Redknapp as well, he was a very, very average player, let's be honest. To come out and say that is actually laughable, isn't it? You could almost accept it if it was someone who was a decent player to say it. You could almost think, well, okay, fair enough. But not Jamie Redknapp. He played for Tottenham. I mean, come on. What on earth is that all about? I mean,
Richard, the thing was, Jamie Redknapp played on the same pitch as Thierry Henry.
I know,
yeah. And Patrick Vieira and Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah.
They made him look stupid for years after year. They made him look very, very bad, and he doesn't recognise them as being legends in the Premier League. He's an idiot, honestly.
I'll tell you what this chat has done. This little section here has made me feel a lot bloody better about yesterday's
I knew it would.
result.
That's what I said at the beginning of the show.
It's kind of taking you back to something.
This is what we're here for, to get it all out and to bury the. It's like an exorcism. Actually, this shouldn't be called a show. It should be called an exorcism.
I feel like I'm on your therapy couch, Rich.
Yeah, exactly. We used to call it the therapy session, didn't we, Melvin? Do you remember when it used to be
we did that.
Therapy?
Oh yeah.
When we were 17th in the league and 15th in the league, it was a therapy session when we were losing every week. And suddenly we didn't need that anymore because we were winning games. But we do need it sometimes.
I'll tell you what I did to make myself better yesterday. It was completely unrelated. I just watched Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. I absolutely haven't seen that film for so long. I loved it.
That is so a great film.
It just took my mind away from the game completely. I didn't even bother watching Match of the Day. And I just watched that. And it was fabulous. I loved it.
I had 3/4 of a bottle of port.
Oh,
that's the other option, isn't it? That's the other option.
Actually. I like port.
Yeah, it was good. I didn't feel anything.
Loki's trying to cheer us on. Can we play Spurs in the Audi Cup? Well, no, we don't want to. We don't want to win the Audi Cup, do we? Because it's pointless, Otherwise, we can't sort of, laugh at them for winning it. The magnificent Jafar, who's got the best name in the chat as always, says what frustrates me more is why he decided to bench Kiwior and play Holding in Liverpool, Southampton, West Ham. Robbie's not good enough and has proved it so many times. Why don't you trust your own side? And I mean, I think we all agree, definitely. It's funny, isn't it? Because he doesn't seem to trust the players he brings in. He hasn't trusted Vieira enough. Is Vieira good enough? He's not really played enough games. He didn't trust Kiwior, a player that he brought in. He hasn't really trusted Trossard enough. He didn't really trust Jorginho against Man City, a player that he brought in as well. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? I don't know. I'm lost. Sometimes I scratch my head and baffled by a lot of the stuff that's been going on, but while we win in games, you don't really care too much, do you, I suppose? James says a great point. Jesus' touch map yesterday was in predominantly touching the ball in midfield to help with Xhaka and Jorginho's lack of mobility, and then left after Martinelli was injured. We need a real number 9. Yeah, we do, but that's Jesus' touch map all season, not just yesterday. I would say he's very rarely in the box, is he really? And most of his goals have been sort of on the edge of the box, haven't they? Really, he's not a 6-yard box poacher, is he? That's the difference with him and Eddie Nketiah. At least Eddie Nketiah's in the 6-yard box, and that's pretty much all Eddie Nketiah's goals are scored from, aren't they? And
did you see, Rich? Did you see Haaland's touch map? There was one little yellow dot on it before he scored the goal. There was just a blank page, one yellow dot. And then he does what he does, and that tells you a lot about a player like that, doesn't it? Movement, physicality. It does,
but then I suppose, it does. But then I suppose you have a 10 players, or you have a 9 players on a pitch, have maybe got to do slightly more each to compensate for the fact that he isn't contributing much else other than the goals. Although I do think he contributes more than that, actually. Having watched him play a few times against us when they beat us 4-1, he didn't score until the 94th minute, whatever it was, but he'd done so much more in that game. Than just, I mean, he had a lot of chances. I thought he had a brilliant game. So he does maybe contribute more. But yeah, he doesn't tend to get involved in a lot of the play a lot of the time, does he? But does he have to? No, because he's in there banging in 52 goals. So let him crack on, and there you go. And James says, I love Jesus, but he ain't getting 25 to 30 goals a season. No, he's not. Absolutely not. Michael says, City and Liverpool have gone for big men up top. When a plan doesn't work, they can be direct and get crosses in. Absolutely vital. We get a different type of forward. Yeah, I agree. We all agree. Does Mikel Arteta agree? I don't know. I mean, Liverpool relied on their front three of sort of Salah, Firmino, and Sane, and Mane, sorry. And they wasn't the big centre forward, those three, were they? It's a bit similar to our front three, very similar type players, aren't they? And I think Arteta's gone more for that free as opposed to what they've got now. But yeah, we need another option, definitely. A plan B, as we keep calling it. Jafar says Jesus is a good player, but what I hate about him is that he's so wasteful. I asked some of my City fans and they said Pep didn't play him because he was just not clinical, and that's why they went for Haaland. Yeah, well, he's not going to be he's nowhere near as clinical as Haaland, is he? And Pep isn't going to get rid of a player that he thought was going to benefit them. There's no doubt about that to me. Terry says if Arteta is replicating Pep, we ain't buying an out-and-out goal scorer for 2 more seasons. Yeah, maybe 3 more seasons, because I think it took him about that long. But anyway, we shall see. Loki says Wenger mixed the plaster for the Emirates by hand. He probably did, actually.
He did.
He did, yeah. And he certainly probably helped put a lot of the seats in as well, I think, and everything else. It's pretty much his stadium, and I still haven't put a statue of him there, which is a bit of a shame, isn't it? Terry says, look on the bright side, chaps, only 2 more games to go before they bring a new kit out for us to buy. They'll probably bring it out before the Wolves game. I agree with that comment earlier about that. I think they'll bring it out the week of the Wolves game, because last season, didn't we wear our new kit for the last home game? We did, didn't we? I think we'll do that again. And that was after we just lost 2 games and thrown away the top 4. Let's bring the new kit out now. Yay! That's because to make everyone happy. Jafar says there, City has told us for years that you have to be perfect. You have to have quality. You have to have a quality squad depth. You need to be ruthless, and still, even with all that, it's not a guarantee you'll win the league. No, it's not a guarantee you'll win the league. Of course not. Winning the league's tough. It is tough, but you've got to at least have the options there. James says there, I'd say Thomas Frank is a manager. Those players will die for him. Yeah, he's another one. Yeah, he's got nice hair as well, hasn't he, Thomas Frank? You have to say, he's got nice hair. And I think that's quite important in a manager. Arteta's got Lego hair. You can't really get into his hair. Richard? Sorry?
Would you like him tucking you in? Would you like Thomas Frank?
Thomas Frank? Now, Thomas Frank would be
Yeah.
cool. He'd be a laugh to tuck you in, I reckon. He's quite funny. I quite like him. He's hilarious. Yeah, so yeah, maybe so. Yeah, he'd have to think of a song though, won't he? He's Danish, isn't he? So he'd probably be like one of them. What was that Danish?
Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that'll be he'll do. Yeah, you can see him doing that, can't you? That'd be pretty cool, actually. Terry says, we're in the Champions League now. All the world class players will want to come here. Well, yeah, of course they will. Haaland will be on the move, right? I'm telling you, he's seen enough of Arsenal to want to get involved. Colonel says, I agree with Melvin there. We need players to improve the squad to make instant impact, but we shouldn't overpay still. No, we shouldn't overpay. Absolutely not. But if you want to get a good player that you need, you're probably going to have to pay over the odds, aren't you? Let's be honest, because that's the nature of football at the moment. And unfortunately, that's what you have to do. God, there's still a lot of comments, actually. I've missed out loads of these. There's hundreds of them coming in. Where was we up to? Emerson there says Saka is burnt out. Yeah, I think we know that. And most teams have targeted him with 2 players on him. Yeah, he leaves White exposed yesterday and not helping him out as Mitoma had a field day and patching himself. Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, we've said that already. Yeah, I mean, he got ripped a new one, didn't he, Ben White, yesterday? I mean, Mitoma's a great player. And, yeah, it was a difficult afternoon for Ben White, let's put it that way. Very difficult afternoon. Terry says if Neil is finding it hard to come up with positives, we're in big trouble. Yeah, that's true.
I'll do a closing statement just for Terry.
That is true. I'm sure he's got some good stuff to come. Bongo says Haaland only on the bench to recharge his batteries and then get a system update. Yeah, probably. Yeah, he needs to be plugged in, and replugged into the system every so often. That's what he needs. Loki says there. Trouble is like Star Wars after part 3, it got crap. Yeah, that is very true, actually. Mark says, Oxymen, yeah, it's no good telling us, mate. Tell Arteta because he's not going to listen. He's not going to listen. I don't think we'll be buying a player like that personally. James says I don't think City play the best football, but they're just annoyingly. Exactly, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, they don't play the best football at all. They are just efficient at what they do because they've done it long enough and they've got it to perfection, haven't they? Bongo Goonie says, yes, Man City, not the best club the world has ever seen because it's Arsenal. Well, exactly, Arsenal, the best the world's ever seen. Exactly, that's what we like to sing, don't we? Absolutely. Mark C says, off topic, but Leicester are getting thumped. Good. Ta-ta, Leicester. See you later. Goodbye. That's good. Bongo Goonie says, Rich wants Wenger back. Well, no, I don't want Wenger back. I want that football back that we played when Wenger was here. That's what I want to see. Or something similar would be nice. Michael says, agree, Rich, games have become basically a game of chess now. Players have been coached to death. A lot of individuality has gone. Yeah, you don't see wingers beat their man on the outside. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. It is what it is like. Yeah, it's almost like a computer game, isn't it? Watching the Premier League sometimes. It's almost like a FIFA game. It's almost like that's what it is. And it's the spontaneity seems to have gone out of it a lot. You don't see those maverick players anymore, really, do you? I mean, Newcastle have got Saint Maximin. He's a bit of a maverick character. He don't get a game much these days because of that reason, you know. And that's not what managers seem to want, do they? They don't want individual players who can do something unexpected. Everyone's got to play by this rigid system and this rigid way, and it seems to be everywhere now. I agree. And yeah, Liverpool maybe a couple of years ago was slightly different to that. Maybe they played a little bit more individually, didn't they? And they were better to watch as a result. But anyway, Bongo Donia says, but we can forget the pundits bar righty to talk positive about us. Yeah, we don't care what the pundits say, do we? We just laugh at them because they just ain't got a clue. It's quite funny, really. So that's good. James says, well, there was football before the Premier League. Sky, I didn't know that. No, there was, mate. Yeah, there was. Indeed, there was. There was lots of football before the Premier League. I know it's hard to believe, isn't it? If you listen to anybody on the telly these days, you'd think the football didn't exist before 1992, and it did quite a long time before.
I'll tell you what, some of the pitches back in the 70s and stuff, they were hardcore. You could actually tackle players and upend them. You could push the goalkeeper in the goal. And you had to play on 6 foot of snow, and they had to come and dig it out and then just mark out the lines.
The Derby pitch at the baseball ground, that used to be a good one, didn't it? I never saw that pitch look anything other than just a mud bath constantly. No matter what time of year it was just muddy constantly, wasn't it? It was just an amazing pitch. And they
Wimbledon ground had a good name, didn't it? Plough Lane.
That's paint the penalty spot, didn't they? That was
is that the one where that's paint the penalty spot?
Yeah, that was a Derby's baseball ground. Yeah, that's a paint the penalty spot. Yeah, see all these things that you know. That's what you miss about modern football, don't you? All that kind of stuff.
And also in the snow, we used to play with orange balls.
Yeah, in the snow. Yeah, that's right.
I think I vaguely remember that.
I think there was one game last season. We played West Brom. Was it last season before? And we played in that snowstorm when we beat them 4-0 away. West Brom, do you remember? Kieran scored that goal. I think they have an orange ball in that game because it was snowing. I'm sure they had a different colour ball. It's quite rare these days. You're right. John's in the chat. He says, "Hi, Rich. All in the chat. Just joined on the way home from work. I'm good to see him. I hope you're well." He says, "It's a bit like going to see a Titanic film and hoping it won't." So, yeah, talking about obviously Michael Thomas missing in '89. Yeah, I suppose it is a bit like that. Yeah, you know what's going to happen, but you're kind of hoping it doesn't. Or we're not hoping it doesn't. You just feel as though it won't. Bongo going says, "Football is a mental game." Well, yeah, it is quite mental. Yeah, it was mental yesterday. That's for certain. Michael says QPR chucked that game. Yeah, they did. Yeah, I mean, they were paid off to chuck that game probably. Mark C says we've won the titles on the road at Anfield, White Hart Lane, Old Trafford. No one else has done that. Exactly.
Stamford Bridge.
Well, as the song says.
I don't remember Stamford Bridge.
Because it was in the 1930s, Melvin, when you were just like about 10 years old. That's why. I think it was 1931 and 1933 when at Stamford Bridge. So there you go.
Oh, they've got the programme somewhere. Hold on.
You probably have. You definitely went. I reckon you went to one of them games at least.
Don't forget White Hart Lane twice. Everyone keeps forgetting that.
It's White Hart Lane twice, Stamford Bridge twice. We've done it everywhere. We just need to. Well, I say we need to win it at the Etihad, but we don't because Man City aren't important. They're not an important club.
Got to win it at the Emirates.
Yes, good
that'd
point.
be nice, wouldn't it? That would be nice, wouldn't it? That would. We've won it. We've won the league more times at Tottenham's ground than we have at our own ground. That's
mad, isn't it?
That's crazy. It is crazy. John says 1971 Cup final, Charlie George scoring the winner. Yeah, that was a great moment actually.
I wasn't that one. Definitely, I wasn't that one. I was.
Yeah, that was a great moment, wasn't it? Michael says that Haaland is proof that oil money can buy you anything. He's a human, our hybrid, A1 hybrid. No, he is exactly 100%. That's what he is. But what can you do? The goal hanger 3,000. I think he's a bit more than a goal hanger, but yeah, he's doing pretty well for himself, isn't he? Jafar says, and I disagree with you, Rich. The Invincibles were something else, but Man City are just on their own planet. They are just so perfect right now. The league is more difficult. No, I don't think the league is more difficult. Honestly, I don't think it is. Sky and everybody else want you to believe that it's more difficult now, but I don't think it is. I really don't. I really don't think it is. There's some really, really poor average teams in the Premier League now, and the good teams are good. Of course they are, but I don't think the league's more difficult overall. I really don't think it is personally, but that's just my opinion. And
if City had come up against Man United under Ferguson in their heyday and come up against Wenger's Invincibles,
they got booted all over the pitch. Man United would have booted them all over the pitch. But then again, that's only 2 games a season, isn't it? Would the other teams, all the other games that they might have won, I don't know. We don't know. It's difficult to speculate, isn't it? It is difficult.
But this is the Sky hype, isn't it? Everyone gets sucked in by it. Oh, these are the best players ever, and it's the greatest team ever.
Why I don't watch
Actually,
Sky.
no, it's not.
That is one reason why I don't watch Sky, for that very reason. James said these teams wouldn't handle the defenders. No, they wouldn't in the early 90s. No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't handle the defenders from any other era, really, because defenders used to be able to tackle, didn't they? And they can't anymore. So 100% agree. Bongo Guna says, what was better than Henri, Bergkamp, Vieira, Pires? No, nobody was. Nobody was. Exactly. That was the best team ever. I don't think anyone says. Maybe the 1930s Arsenal team weren't bad, as Melvin will confirm, with Alex James and Cliff Aston and all them.
Oh, Melvin.
They were good, weren't they, Melvin? You enjoyed them, didn't you? 127 goals we scored in 1931. 127 goals in the league. Man City think they're good. We scored 127 goals. They've never done that. What are you on about? Best team ever? No, nowhere near. Loki says Haaland is a fitter Lee Chapman. Well, I've never heard him described as that before. I have to say that's pretty good. I've never really thought of him like that. But now you mention it, yeah, maybe you're right actually. But anyway, there you go. Mark C says that's some comparison. Yeah, it is a mad comparison. John says King Thierry Henry was amazing. Bergkamp had been a flop at Inter Milan, and Bruce Rioch signed him, then got sacked. But Bergkamp was, well, no, Bruce Rioch didn't sign him. David Dean signed him. Let's get it right. Bruce Rioch was just a manager at the time. But yeah, I mean, I think Bruce Rioch would have signed John McGinley, wouldn't he, if he'd been given a choice of striker?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So he wouldn't have signed Dennis Bergkamp, would he? That's for certain. James says, fuming Neil, you should have put.
That's an inside joke. We won't go into that one.
No, okay.
Is there anything to do with Stevie Wonder?
No.
Oh, the Duke. That was a good album, wasn't it? It's the Duke
Brilliant,
from
brilliant.
It's not quite that. Maybe one day I'll tell you off
I
camera.
think you need to. I think you need to now. He's kind of come out in the show. I think you can't keep it a
I
secret.
have to be off camera though.
Everyone's excited. Bongo Goon says, how gutted will Pep be after we beat them in the Champions League final after they get kicked out this year? Well, not sure about that, but anyway, we'll see. We haven't managed to beat them yet, have we? Loki says there, City won the league in 1937 and were relegated in 1938. Yeah, they did, yeah. In fact, I don't know if it was then. I know there was one season when Man City were reigning champions, and I think they conceded 100 goals the next season as reigning league champions, which is quite a feat as well, isn't it? It might have been that might have been the year they got relegated potentially then. James says there, well, there's been a title win Melvin hasn't seen. No, Melvin's seen them all 13 he's seen. He was there for all of them. That's why we have him on the show, because his knowledge and his memory goes back so far.
God, poor Melvin.
No, it's good to remember all those 1930s titles. There's not many people do. So it's great that we've got someone on the show that does. It's great.
Oh my God.
Mark says, I'm wary of our Champions League slot. Unless we get 3 or 4 world-class signings in the summer, we could end up getting a hiding. Well, last time we were in it, we lost 10-2 to Bayern Munich, didn't we? So it's not going to be worse than that, is it? So,
Don't remind us, Rich. Don't remind us.
But that's the last time. That's the last time.
Up.
So, yeah, we can't get worse than that, can it? Terry says Haaland would have got kicked into Rosehead every week back in the day. He would have done, yeah. He definitely. Well, I don't know. Would someone have been able to kick him into Rosehead? Because he's quite a big lad, isn't he? He can look after himself.
Mickey Droy would have done. Remember Mickey Droy?
Oh, Mickey Droy, yeah. He would have probably kicked him, yeah. Who was that one who played for Top? Graham Roberts. He would have booted him into the stands and all, wouldn't he? Yeah. Graham Roberts. Do you remember him? He would have definitely done that. Yeah. Michael says, I remember what the mighty Man U had to resort to beat us in game. Exactly, exactly. That's what they would have done. They would have done that. That's what you have to do, don't you? You have to have a plan for certain games. We should have got to Man City and kicked the shit out of them the other week, and we didn't. We go, oh no, we'll play football against you because you're much better than us. Bongo says,
look at that.
Melvin, the one going says, Melvin, yeah, fair enough. Get him on back. Yeah, fair enough. I'll take that. That's fine. I don't mind. I could wear a hat like Neil to cover it up, but I don't.
I cover it. I cover mine up. So,
but I'm not bothered really. Only when it's cold, just to stop me getting a cold head. James says, Ruben Diaz and Laporte Edison would cack themselves going up against Dion Dublin. Darren Huckabee, Gary McAllister's Coventry. Yeah, I'll tell you what, they would have. Who was that? Who am I thinking of? Duncan Ferguson. They wouldn't have liked Duncan Ferguson much either, would they? Because he was a bit scary, wasn't he?
He was Radio Renzo, wasn't he? He was Radio Renzo.
Didn't he like basically nearly kill someone who broke into his house? Duncan Ferguson, didn't he?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was Terry Hurlock. Loki says, "Yeah, do you remember Terry Hurlock? He was one, wasn't he? With his, he had some.
Oh my God, yeah.
He was a bit mental, wasn't he? Terry says, I've seen Sammy Nelson put a few in Rosehead. Yeah, Sammy Nelson was. We had a few back in the 70s, didn't we? Peter Storey. You wouldn't mess with Peter Storey either, would you? No. He was not to be messed with, was he? He was a bit of a character as well, wasn't he? Peter Storey. Well, anyway, I've had enough of Brighton. Why don't we look briefly before we finish? Let's look ahead to it. We've got another game to play. I know we don't want to bother playing one. It's a waste of time, but we've got to, unfortunately. No, I actually quite like Nottingham Forest, and I don't like their fans always singing about winning a European Cup and all this kind of stuff whenever you play them, because that's all they've got to say, because they've got nothing else to mention. But I do quite like Nottingham Forest, actually. I like the club, I like the ground, I like going there, I like their fans generally. And I do hope they stay up, because I'd rather they stay up than some of the other teams down the bottom there. But it's a big game for them. They need to win, obviously. And our season finished yesterday, as we all know. Are we going to be able to turn up for this game and look like we're bothered this week, do you think? Or are we gone completely now and that's it? We're going to lose the last 2 games. No one cares anymore because we finished second anyway. Or do you think we'll go to Forest and with a point to prove? Do you think Arteta would have riled them up this week and said that wasn't acceptable? Let's go out and show the fans what we're all about. And do you think we'll have a reaction at Forest, Melvin? Or do you think maybe we might just tamely surrender to a team and an atmosphere they need to win and they're going to be coming at us?
I think the manager might tamely surrender, actually. He might put a lot of players in that you don't normally get. I think he'd just taper off the team. And I don't think the team's got, he must realise it's got no energy left. It's got no gas left. And I think there's certain players that need, I know that when they ain't got another 10 games to go, just need to have a rest and rest them for the last game against Wolves. I don't see us doing much against Forest. We should be better than Forest, but they're energetic, Forest. But at home, they're not a bad team, you know. They've got some results, and they've got a couple of decent forwards. They really have.
Yeah.
So,
Aoyemi, whatever his name is, he scored 4 goals in the last 2 games, hasn't he?
What's his name?
I don't know, Wonmi or something. I can't think of his name now, but he's
the big centre forward. Yeah, he hasn't scored all season. I think he scored 1 goal all season, and he got 4 in 2 games.
Yeah,
it's like buses. No, I don't think we'll. I'm not that confident. I think we'll have to go. That's it. Season's over. Let's put it on for the last game of the season. We'll walk around the pitch. We get a great applause, which we deserve to get. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think he might rest a few players for the Forest game. I really do. And what have we got? We've got to thank Forest for our football jerseys, haven't we? The red colour.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I'd say that we've had quite a good history with Forest, haven't we? Because we borrowed the shirts from there. Fred Beardsley, it was, who I think he played for Forest, and he basically he was part of the Arsenal who formed the club, and he got some shirts from Forest, and that's how we play in red. So we've got a lot to thank Nottingham Forest for. So maybe letting them stay in the Premier League by letting them beat us might not be a bad favour to repay them, maybe. But I just couldn't stand their fans going about winning the European Cup and all that, though. That's the only thing that's going to annoy me. But anyway, what do you think the score will be there, Melvin? If you think we're going to rest half our team, I'm guessing it's not going to be very good.
I think we get beat 2-0.
2-0. We have lost on our last 2 visits to Forest, of course, in the Cup. The FA Cup, they beat us twice. But we've got a decent record there overall. I mean, Neil, what are you thinking then for Saturday, isn't it? The late kickoff on Saturday. Do you think we'll make some changes? Do you think we're up for this game? Or do you think Forest, they need to win? They're going to have more motivation for this game, maybe?
If we weren't up to the game against Brighton, we're not going to be up for this one. Because the Brighton one was more important and significant. So if we had beaten Brighton, this would be a different conversation. I don't know what he's going to do. He might do a little bit of experimentation, but a little bit too little. Was it too little, too late? Maybe bringing in some players what we've been crying for to get more minutes. I don't want to change a habit of a lifetime. So I'm still saying we're going to win, but it's going to be a really horrible 2-1 win to us. And I think. I'd like to see Emil Smith-Rowe actually play, and I'd like to see him score. That would make me happy. 2-1 Emil Smith-Rowe scoring.
I think we'd all like to see Emil Smith-Rowe play, wouldn't we? Because he deserves some minutes on the pitch. Definitely. Terry says 4-1, it's over for me. Is that 4-1 to Arsenal? Because usually you're predicting like 6-0. So I'm guessing that maybe you're not quite so optimistic. So you're going 4-1 to Arsenal instead of what you usually go.
Good old Terry.
Armour Phoenix says it's going to be tricky, but we have to finish the season strong.
Well, agree.
We have to, yeah, I agree, but will we? Armour Phoenix also says that Man City drew. They did, yeah, that was true. That was a lot. I think that's the last points they dropped actually, all them months ago. Yeah. But yeah, they did draw there. It's definitely not going to be easy. He's got 2-1 to Arsenal. We win. Let's hope you're right. James says there, Neil will put the Duke on to cheer him up against Saturday night. Well, we'll have to find out what the Duke's all about. But
my God, James.
Do we need the Duke to cheer you up? Do we? Then is that
no?
We don't. Okay, right. Tom, what are you anticipating then for Saturday evening game against Nottingham Forest? Good time to kick off. I don't mind the 5:30 games on a Saturday. It's a nice place to go, as I said, and it's going to be a good atmosphere. Are we going to be up for it though? That is the question, isn't it? Really.
Well, if I was Arteta, I'd start with the same team and tell them to get out there and actually show that they can play football, because that was a non-event. The second half was terrible, shocking, below standard, very, very poor. And I would force them all to play again. I wouldn't drop anyone. I'd just get them all to go out there and say, this is how Arsenal play. You embarrassed yourself last time out. Let's do it. I think we can win it. I think we'll win it 3-1. Quite positive about it.
Right, I like that, Tom. I like it.
That's a very optimistic shout after yesterday's game. So we have to. That's pretty good. Bongo Guna says, "Can someone check on the odds of us still winning the league?" Well, I don't know what they are, but if we don't win on Saturday, we can't win the league mathematically. It's all done. So that's it's going to be massive odds, isn't it? I don't know exactly what they are, but anyway. I kind of tend to agree with Melvin. I can actually see there being some changes to the team. I think that Arteta is going to maybe try and protect some of his little mates, and he's not going to want to put them in the firing line again. And I think he might make some changes. Yes, we might see players like Smith Rowe. We might see Fabio Vieira. We might see some people like this playing. And hopefully Trossard might get a start. Reece Nelson. It could be a team like that, which isn't a bad team. And on paper, it should be good enough to beat Nottingham Forest. But I think Forest, they need to get a result for their own sort of survival hopes. The crowd's going to be bang up for it. They know they can beat us because they have done. I'm a little bit concerned about this game. I've got to be honest. Last away game of the season, though, I don't know. Our fans will be there in numbers. It should be a good atmosphere, and maybe that might make a difference. Ahmed Phoenix says there redemption from the Brighton game. Well, yeah, let's hope that's what we do. I'm just not 100% convinced that we will. I just think Forest are going to be so up for it, and the crowd are going to be up for it. It's one of them sort of atmospheres that we tend to kind of shrink in generally. I can't back us to lose, so I'm going to go with a draw. But it's not a very optimistic draw, I've got to be honest. I think it'll be 1-1, and we'll probably sort of scrape it somehow and get a draw. It might not be enough for Forest, but we'll see. That's kind of what I'm feeling for it, really. Terry says, I hope you're all right, Tom, but I'm with Magic on this one. Yeah, I'm kind of more tempted to go with Melvin on this, probably. Armour Phoenix says, I don't get why we would make changes, though. If we want to finish the season strong, we cannot afford to play a weaker team. Yeah, but it's a matter of saying, look, some of these players need some minutes, don't they? Some of them have got points to prove a little bit as well, haven't they? One's on the bench. Could be a good time to throw him in. I'm pretty sure Reece Nelson and Emil Smith Rowe, if they get a start, are going to be wanting to prove something to the manager, aren't they? And say you should have been picking me. So I don't think it's a bad thing. That's why I would make some changes, just to give them some point to prove. Mark C says, if Forest score first, it's curtains. Yeah, potentially, it could well be. I agree. Forest tend to be a funny team, though. They don't tend to start games particularly well, do they? And then they tend to get stronger later on. I don't know if they'll score first, but I don't know. It's more about which Arsenal turn up, isn't it? If it's the actual Arsenal that we've seen most of the season, we should win. But my worry is it won't be the same Arsenal we've seen most of the season, and it's going to be a very tough game. But we'll see. John says there, I hope Everton stay up as when we go over with our schools team to play tournaments. They'd always invite us to meet the players. And out of 16 of us, nobody's bought in Everton. No, I mean, Everton have they've been in the first division or the top flight for the second longest amount of time after us, haven't they? So it'd be a shock if they went down, but I think they might do. I think this might be their season. It's looked like Leicester got beat tonight. They might be down as well. Southampton, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Leeds? Is it going to be Forest? Is it going to be Everton? Well, it's still all to play for at the bottom, isn't it? It could be quite exciting last couple of weeks. Arnold Phoenix says, our last 7 games and City's last 7 games makes me so sad. Well, City's 7 games have been win, haven't they? So there you go. Their last 11 they've won. That's what you need to do if you're going to win the league. So, yeah, we're not overly confident, are we, about Saturday? But it is what it is. We've got to play the game, and let's hope that we can end the season well and give us a bit of confidence going into the summer. Look ahead to a big summer. It's going to be, isn't it? Big transfer window coming up and all that kind of stuff. So we're looking forward to that. But, yeah, in a way, I kind of just want the season to finish, if I'm honest. It's just like, I can't really get motivated for Saturday's game if I would have won after that. But we've got to play them, so let's try and enjoy them if we can and get results and hope for the best. But, yeah. It despite the fact that mathematically it isn't over, it is over. We know that. Loki says Arsenal 105 years in the top league. Indeed. Well, it's 104, isn't it? 1919. 1919. So it's 104, isn't it? 104 years. Not 105, but anyway, it's still a long time. John says, I think they will. Everton, yeah, maybe. Big summer for sure. Very excited for next season. I'm not going to lie. Well, let's see what the summer brings first. But yeah, I mean, we'll be excited for the next season. We're always excited for the season until it starts. And then sometimes we're not so excited. But this season was all right until the end. Right, so that has been the Arsenal review. Then we've got it all out of our system, haven't we? Do we feel better now, Melvin? Are you feeling better with life?
Oh, yeah, I feel a lot better. Better than I did yesterday.
Good. That's what it's all about, isn't it? That's all we can hope for, isn't it, really? And tomorrow will be a better day. Neil, are you feeling better with life now?
100%. I said it from the top of the show. I said, you guys are going to cheer me up, and you've done exactly that. So a pleasure to be on, as always, speaking to you 3 legends of the fan base now.
Good. That's what we like to hear. And Tom as well. Do you feel a bit better? You was a bit grumpy at the beginning, weren't you? A bit down in the dumps. Do you feel a bit happier now?
Yeah, I feel a bit happier, but I tell you, it's weird. As I said, the older I got, I thought it became less of an impact, but it really hit me like a train yesterday, and I was bad to be around. And this morning was pretty much the same, trying to come to terms with. Then it rained, and that really hacked me off. And I thought, yeah, you would do, wouldn't you? But yeah, it's been great fun coming on here, just exercising the demon.
Exactly. You know, we should call this show The Exorcism or something, shouldn't we? That might be a better name for it, actually. That would be what we do. Mark C says El Nenny's over his injury. There you go. We wanted a positive to end the show. Mark C, El Nenny's over his injury. There we go. That's
God, we are saved.
We are exactly. We'll beat we'll stick him in the team. We'll beat Nottingham Forest 5-0. There you go. That's sorted. That's good. I'm glad that we got that one out of the way. John says El Nenny to score the winner in the Champions League final. Well, obviously that has to be next season, won't it? If he's still here. Bongo Gurney says I think we watch football because of moments like this as much as moments like 89. Yeah, well, there's more moments like this than 89, isn't it? Let's be honest. 89's a once in a lifetime thing. Losing to Brighton at home happens every year for Arsenal, certainly at the minute. So you know. It's what it is, isn't it? We just get used to it now. Are they actually, just before we finish, if anybody knows, are Brighton the first team ever to win on 3 consecutive visits to the Emirates? Because I think they might be.
Yeah, probably.
I know Man
United. What about Man City? What about Man City? How many have they beaten us on the run?
Oh, yes, Man City. They probably have. They probably beat us about six times in a row, actually. I can't remember the last time we didn't lose to Man City at home. You're probably right.
Exactly.
So probably Man City.
So I think Man City probably got the baton.
Oh, yeah.
1930 something, wasn't it, Melvin?
It was 42, actually.
Couldn't resist it.
No, you can always get one in. But yeah, anyway, that's been good fun. As I enjoyed that. It was good. Obviously, it's great to see Melvin, Neil, and Tom, of course, tonight. All you guys, there's a load of comments tonight. Actually, so many comments. Ridiculous. I probably missed some of them out because there was just so many that were coming through, and we got a bit sidetracked. But I hope I got through as many of them as I could. So thank you to all you guys for watching and joining in. You know, you make the show what it is as much as us on here. So thank you for all of that as well. We'll be back. Well, we've made a slight change of plan. On Wednesday, Melvin was going to do his Highbury Matters show, but unfortunately for him and ours, because we like the show, the Arsenal women are playing, and it's quite a big game against Everton, so we'll obviously be covering that. It starts at 6:15, the game, which is a bit of a strange time on a Wednesday night. But anyway, we'll be going live at 6 o'clock to bring you coverage of that one. So join us for that if you can. And then Friday, we've got the women's show. We'll be back. We'll be looking back at the Everton game. Arsenal women play Chelsea on Sunday. So that's another really big game in the women's game. So that's going to be good. So join us for that as well. And of course, Saturday evening, we'll be here for the Nottingham Forest game, where hopefully we might enjoy it a little bit more than we enjoyed yesterday's game. I'm sure we will, because it can't be much worse, let's be honest. John said Man City hold that record. Yeah, I think we just figured that out. Yeah, I forgot about Man City. I try to forget about it all the time. But yeah. Mark C says, we'll all be here next week. Be lucky, chaps. Yeah, let's hope we'll all be here next week and enjoy the show.
You keep reading out the comments, Richard. We'll be here till next week. We will.
Well, they keep putting them on, don't they? It's not my fault, is it? Terry says, great show again, Richard. Magic, Tom and Neil. Thank you. Good night. It's all in the chat. Stay away from sharp objects, at least. The Gooner Girls show some fight. Yeah, we'll see the Gooner Girls on Wednesday, won't we? I'm sure that'll be good. So join us for that if you can. Good night, chaps. Thanks for watching. We will see you very soon. I'll see you Wednesday. Take it easy. Thanks to Melvin, Neil, and Tom, everyone in the chat. See you later, guys. We will see you soon.
Guys.
Come on.
Cheers.
Take care.
Come on.
Real Martinelli. It's now with Granit Xhaka. Is it going to be the third goal? It is the third goal. Granit Xhaka with it. That seems